expecté pour coûter à peu près 32,2 millions de dollars pour le projet Millennium, et puis l'autre 6,2 millions les venus pour soleil façade couchant. Parmi l'autre encore, nous touchons parler, nous tenons un budget encore, les venus pour faire et puis ville Vieux-Fort. Et puis c'est côté à façade soleil couché, nous avons là yo kay ranger ces chimères ça, especially c'est ça qui a pris l'autre bord pour Vieux-Fort, nous avons ça qui a trouvé quoi et puis les venus pour ces chimères qui là et pour changer chimère ça a tout fait quoi bâti et passer méritien les venus pour la dia qui était deuxième la dia la terre et puis yo ces chimères ça qui a à peu près en 100 à terre. Quand nous continuons, nous avons les venus pour souci et là nous avons pour trouver quoi bâti et puis ça aussi qui a coûté à peu près 46 millions de dollars ici encore et puis nous avons les venus pour c'est Japon ça c'est le gouvernement Japon c'est moun ça qui a mis à peu près 20 millions par grand. Nous avons Jessica là encore les venus pour Glow Security Glow nous avons encore plan gouvernement les venus pour ça nous avons les venus pour Damna projet qui a allé en Damna là déjà nous avons chay travail déjà fait et puis on a vieux mettre bagaille en place ou changer après dernier storm nous tenir mauvais temps Thomas et puis temps Noël bon l'année 2013 nous changer nous tenir ces mauvais temps ça et puis en chaïtek bagaille tout en Damna qui après ça yo ka nettoyer mettre bagaille en place pour faire assurer yo faciliter ça projet Damna ka aller pour Denry Nord nous ka les venir pour Glow et pour mener Glow là nous côté adresser développement qui a fait là et communauté là et ça yo veut faire c'est improver quality les venir pour Glow et puis pour moun ça Glow première phase là est finie en 2018 et puis phase là qui commençait en janvier 20 000 ça c'est l'année ça et puis ça peut vous faire assurer yo ça traité à peu près 1,4 million de gallons par jour et puis ça nous avons bénéfice quand il vient à bénéfice ces gens Denry Nord quand nous dit projet en Vieux-Fort nous aussi les venir pour construire et puis qu'a développer ces chimères là parmi l'autre bagages puis nous t'en dernièrement là moi just parler de les venir pour poids et puis les venir pour poids même nous avons tous les deux ces facilités ça quand tout fait quoi improuver puis travail mais en main les venir pour improuver secteur en bas tourisme.
Absolutely. And we've just gone over the key result areas that have been prioritized under the medium-term development strategy for 2020 to 2023. However, the other sectors, again, we're stressing, are not being abandoned or neglected. The manufacturing sector is also being looked at closely. The Honorable Prime Minister, in his budget address, did indicate that a census of the private sector will be undertaken this year to better understand its needs so that new and more effective policies could be crafted to boost output. And if I may just add, the Honorable Prime Minister did indicate that there would be efforts to start up another Buy Local campaign, Buy St. Lucian campaign. And he did show a bottle of hand sanitizer that was made in St. Lucia. And the need at this time, as we look inwardly, not being able to look out to the world to help us at this COVID-19 scenario that we're in right now, buying local being the way to boost, to stimulate our economy and to increase our export at this time.
Again, we see the need and we see where Belfast comes into play as it relates to upcoming businesses, and we have seen a lot of those cottage industries emerging as a result of COVID. So it's a welcoming idea that we could see now funds being directed at encouraging such. And of course, you see the question everyone is saying, food security has been on the mouth of a lot of persons.
We're coming to that.
And definitely we could see as it relates. If you improve it, if you work on it, then Jesse, we are pointing in this direction of being more reliant on ourselves.
Absolutely. We're due for our first break for the morning. If you could just stay tuned with us, just to give you an update to wrap up our efforts under the medium-term development strategy, and as well as the efforts that have been updates on the private sector investment. Just to touch on citizenship by investment, we heard a figure being forwarded by the government, by the Honorable Prime Minister on Tuesday on the funds that have have so far been raised under the Citizenship by Investment Program. We see $131.2 million being raised so far from the sale of passports. At a time of dwindling sources of grant funding, he indicated, the Honorable Prime Minister that is, and an ever-increasing demand for government services, government will leverage the demand of our passports as a means of attracting foreign investment into St. Lucia. And with that, we go to our first break again. When we come back, we look at other critical areas that the Honorable Prime Minister Alan Chasney spoke of in his budget address on Tuesday. The Appropriations Bill tabled and now being debated in the Honorable House. Just to let you know, we are coming to you live from the Parliament building in downtown Castries. The convening of the House of Assembly is set to begin anytime now. We're practically on standby for the beginning of that, speaking to you, going over the budget address. So stay tuned. When we come back, we go over some other critical areas listed in the budget address.
Wash your hands, wash them before
eating or handling food or caring for infants, sick or elderly people.
wash your hands, wash them after.
Using the toilet, touching raw meat, handling pets and livestock, playing outdoors, cleaning or handling waste and garbage.
Wash your hands, wash them often.
You are going right when you make a habit of washing your hands several times a day.
This message brought to you courtesy the Bureau of Health Education of the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Personal risk reduction is important. Germs are everywhere, and you can reduce your risk of infection by practicing some basic infection control measures. Taking the stairs, avoid touching the railing. If taking the elevator, ensure you use hand sanitizer immediately after exiting the elevator. Hand sanitizers with 60% or more alcohol are great to use, so have some readily available on your desk for quick use. Have your own personal bottle to carry with you when away from running water and soap. Germs can spread easily and be anywhere. Be sure to wipe down or disinfect desks, telephones, and keyboards. Washing your hands often will reduce the spread of germs, but you must wash them as recommended. Masks and gloves serve a purpose and provide protection when used in the recommended settings and when used correctly. They are not practical for the office or business place and can lead to the further spread of germs when used badly. Use only if you are coughing and/or sneezing or taking care of someone who is ill with flu-like symptoms. For more information, call the Ministry of Health and Wellness at 468-5347, 468-5349, or 468-5350.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you're just joining us, a special good morning to you. St. Lucia is boasting once more a 100% recovery rate for COVID-19 here on island. If you're joining us online, on air, a special good morning to you, residents in St. Lucia, viewers from the diaspora, St. Lucians and well-wishers, we welcome you as well. We are live from Parliament building in downtown Castries. The budget debates continue. You would have known on Tuesday the Appropriation Bill for 2020-2021 was tabled in the House of Assembly by the Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, the Honourable Alan Chasney. And since then, the debate has ensued and continues this morning. And in the meantime, we're scheduled to start anytime soon, but in the meantime, Carlton and myself, we've been going over the Honourable Prime Minister's address, looking at some of the key areas, the highlights, if you will, of the budget address, where St. Lucians can benefit in the interim, the short term, as well as the medium term, coming off of this COVID-19, its effects, very debilitating effects, flatlining our tourism sector at this time. And the government of St. Lucia has endeavored to do a number of things. The economic recovery and resilience plan of the government of St. Lucia encapsulate stimulation of the economy. It encapsulate fast-tracking infrastructure projects, as well as strengthening social protection systems here in St. Lucia. We're looking at protecting the poor and the vulnerable. And not only that, not only just increasing funds for the poor and the vulnerable on a monthly basis, the kids who are in foster care, etc., but also refining the systems to understand who really is in need at this time. We know in addition, we need to begin to think of the new persons who've been thrust on the breadline at this time due to COVID-19. There are more individuals who are at risk, frankly. And so the government of St. Lucia is endeavoring to get a better picture of those who are poor and vulnerable at this time, and better serve them at this time as well. We continue with the education sector. We've been speaking so far about the tourism sector, the infrastructure sector, agriculture as well, looking at private sector investments, citizenship by investment. We mentioned we got a figure from the Honorable Prime Minister about the revenue that has been generated from the CIP so far, being EC $131.2 million. And now we move on to the education sector. The Honorable Prime Minister indicated that the Program for Education Realignment and Transformation is a project that seeks to build on the foundation of the EQUIP project. And under this initiative, which is estimated to cost $15 million, the following infrastructural works will be implemented. And these infrastructural works, please note, are under the education sector. They are construction of a new secondary school to replace the Miku Secondary School, construction of a new special education needs facility to replace Donata School, the major expansion and restoration works at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, also construction of a new special education needs facility to replace the Viewfort Special Education Center, expansion and rehabilitation works at the SEND facilities, expansion and rehabilitation works at the Early Childhood Development Centers, upgrade and expansion of TVET laboratories at 9 secondary schools, upgrade and expansion of 2 secondary schools, the Entrepot Secondary School and the Suffolk Comprehensive Secondary School. It's quite lengthy, Carlton. A lot of upgrades happening. Yes. A provision of usable ramps and alternative mechanisms across the system to enable students with disabilities to enter and exit schools and their learning spaces safely and uninhibited. And finally, provision and installation of school security solutions and security systems in schools. And the project, the Program for Education Realignment and Transformation, will provide furniture, equipment, and tools for newly constructed, upgraded, and rehabilitated facilities, together with learning devices and startup kits for learners graduating from technical vocational education training programs. And this year's budget has some $3.8 million approved for the computerization of classrooms. And I look forward to that rollout. It's always good when we take care of the learners. You know, they are our biggest investment in terms of human resource.
Definitely, Jesse. And again, quand nous avons dit bonjour et merci, si vous avez demandé ça qui a fait nous avons dit, nous avons mené un programme bon matin à Kai Concite, nous avons un budget qui a tout fait présenté et puis nous avons débattu aujourd'hui. Parmi les bagages, Jesse a touché à son chai, c'est différentes provisions, c'est différents secteurs que le gouvernement a adressé et puis là nous avons parlé à ce ça le gouvernement a fait pour veiller et pour mener l'économie à sous pied et puis nous en chai en ces initiatives ça y a fait nous parler à ces programmes social là à présent autant Jessica a adressé les venus pour éducation et transformation les venus pour secteur ça et là nous tant premier ministre a dit en bas projet ça il a estimé pour dépenser à peu près l'argent méritien $15 millions et monsieur qu'on l'argent ça va trouver quoi dépenser les venus pour l'école secondaire là Miku les venus pour l'école pour maman qui est besoin spécial attention pour replacer ça là l'école donateur les venus pour l'école au monde ça a Louis collège là les venus pour travail à sur construction les venus pour c'est maman ça aussi en vieux fort ça c'est maman qui besoin attention spéciale esprit nous avons réhabilitation les venus pour ces faciliter ça qui a précré maman qui besoin attention spéciale nous aussi et les venus pour en bas projet TVET nous avons à peu près 9 l'école qui a une opportunité pour écouter, il y a une côté pour faire science et puis pour travail les venir pour l'école yo. En chai parler nous aussi ouais les venir pour yo ka arranger et puis faire primaire de l'école secondaire, ça c'est ça un tripo et puis l'autre là Soufouillère c'est l'école comprehensive Soufouillère, c'est l'école ça qui a en tension. En chai l'autre provision les venir pour mes sécurité puis solution en c'est l'école là nous tout ça trouver quoi mentionné parmi l'autre bagaille projet qui a coûté 15 millions de dollars américains nous c'est l'école là chai c'est meubles yo brisé équipement construction nous avons réhabilitation pour chai c'est faciliter ça et puis juste pour ces mamans là en chai équipement pour yo apprendre et puis pour commencer à apprendre tout ça dans l'année même l'année ça nous avons 3,8 millions de dollars à trouver et approuvé pour ces mamans là les venir pour yo ni computer en dedans ces classes là en chai information qu'on nous continuellement cadeau ici à là où assis des coûter c'est un chai information mais bien important nous toujours encourager monde pour coûter et ça peut-être nous pas ba explanation pour souper faire monde expliquer parce que bien important pour ça qui manière bagay la point pour un pays à parmi développement sur on est commencer écouter nous et sur attendre sur radio et nous ba information hot commandant information développement qu'on y a fait écoutant bon matin en ces 19 moun nan nou qui trouvé quoi yo testé positif tout ja oui couvert merci et grâce à Dieu nous ka dit nous pas ni pièce ka de vermin ici mais encore nous tant hot si moi ka bay avertissement continuer suivre protocole national parce que c'est ça qui a empêché vermin si mais nous aussi docteur Belma George ka dit nous à présent nous avons l'autre pays où la terre nous avons c'est les mois qui viennent monter en chaque place n'a été abaissé mais à présent il y a vieux monter quoi il a dit nous même nous pouvons être sous garde nous ne pouvons continuer suivre protocole et faire ça nous devons faire pour combattre vermin Covid là parce que il faut finir parmi ces bagages ça nous toujours pas dit ici masque là laver la main distance sociale et sous senti malade visiter un clinique nous pas répéter nous pas dire parce que nous pas d'où c'est seulement nous ça ouais clarté c'est seulement nous ça vie normal c'est si nous suivons ces protocoles ça ou encore nous ici en parlement a discuter conseil avec budget dans moment continuer nous avons choisi ces gens parlement arrivé parmi eux nous avons monsieur Sean Edward nous avons monsieur Moussa ici honorable Moussa honorable Bradley Felix ici nous avons aussi
honorable Ezekiel Joseph
ici quoi c'est tout la marché nous avons commencé à aller ici
absolutely and there are other MPs I believe who are in the building. I believe the Honorable Dominic Fede is here as well. He stepped out and other MPs who have so far arrived in the building but they're not seated as yet. So we are essentially on standby for the commencement of parliamentary proceedings this morning. Today is Thursday, the 25th of June 2020 and the budget debate continues today in the House of Assembly. And as we await, we're just speaking on the budget address that was forwarded by the Honorable Prime Minister, Alan Shasney, on Tuesday, for which there was the consequent debate. And continuing with the highlights of the budget address, we have citizen security. That's a continuation of the empowerment of the people. Citizen security, the Honorable Prime Minister did indicate that there are several key imperatives, including the enhancement of crime detection and the patrol system, the strengthening of community involvement in crime fighting, the improvement of investigation and prosecution of backlogs, and the enhancement of adult and juvenile rehabilitation programs. The Honorable Prime Minister, in terms of border control, did speak to the establishment of the Border Control Agency. And there are currently several agencies, the Customs and Excise Department, the Marine Unit, and the Immigration Department within the Royal St. Lucia Police Force that are working assiduously to try to get this establishment of this agency. And the Prime Minister is saying that this agency will lead to improved management of our borders and ports while increasing synergies and economies of scale and presenting the opportunity for a more holistic approach to border control. In terms of the administration of justice, we know that there has been an inordinate delay, Carlton, of cases, criminal cases, being brought before the courts. And the Honourable Prime Minister has indicated that during this upcoming fiscal year, allocation has been made to cover the costs of the appointment of an additional judge with their own supporting staff. And consideration has also been given to reallocating funds to provide support for support staff for 3 sitting judges at the criminal court right now, and to further strengthen the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution through the hiring of 2 additional Crown Counsels. So there are efforts to bolster the justice system at this time to try to get the backlog of cases, get them concluded in a timely fashion. The Probations and Parole Unit has started operations with the appointment of 4 parole officers and establishment of the Parole Board. The Honourable Prime Minister did indicate that the training of parole officers has commenced, and the first Parole Board hearing is scheduled to be held shortly. Right now there are 130 inmates at the Borderley Correctional Facility who are eligible for parole, and once the board is fully operational, it estimates that it will be able to review a minimum of 5 applications for 5 inmate applications each month. So please take note of that. Update on the forensic lab while we're on the subject of justice, administration of justice. The forensic lab is currently putting measures in place to working to attain ISO accreditation by 2021. As part of the forensic lab's efforts in attaining this accreditation, funds have been allocated by the government of St. Lucia for the following during the 2020-2021 fiscal year. The forensic lab will be able to procure equipment to upgrade and strengthen the work of the chemistry unit, a procurement of DNA equipment to restart DNA services, training of staff in the areas of DNA analysis, trace analysis, shooting reconstruction and firearm examination, blood stain pattern analysis. By the sound of things, it sounds like a Law and Order episode, but it is all efforts toward improving investigations of crimes here in St. Lucia.
Definitely, Jesse, thanks so much. Quand nous avons visité le budget Premier ministre et puis qui ça qui est dans le budget là, nous avons aller en détail. Parmi les bagages que Premier ministre a touché à ça, il est venu pour budget, il est venu pour sécurité, et puis il a parlé de sécurité citoyenne. Là, nous la Premier ministre a parlé à ça, ni corporation ça entre communauté et puis il est venu pour combattre le crime communautaire et puis police. Et là aussi parlé pour improver l'investigation, expressément, là il venu pour capter caisse l'année qui là et puis pourquoi ça adresser ces cas ça. Il aussi parlé là il venu pour côté Yokachen c'est jeune maman là qui a comité crime et puis pour réhabilitation en chaque ces programmes ça Yokai travaille à souille. Yon nan se bagay là nous t'attend parler d'hier c'est là venu pour caméra qu'a mettre caméra c'est différents secteurs et puis oui ça c'est ça yoki c'est CCTV et puis là il a dit nous va projet ça phase D un projet à Kaimouché il a mettre 56 différentes locations en Castries, 20 en Vieux-Fort, 29 en Gros-Îlet et puis 10 les autres comme et puis c'est ça Kaisa li ça c'est number plate tout à sous machine mais pour sécurité on dit en chaque place ça de pas dire vraiment côté y est venu pour en chaque l'autre bagaille tout fait quoi parler là nous t'en venu pour ni police qui travaille et puis communauté yo a pointé monde pour travail venu pour ça c'est nom bien expérience en secteur police là c'est monde ça yo kay bay support pour mon communauté et puis des fois mon ça c'est pour mettre présence police là venu pour attaquer ça qu'a fait en communauté. Jesse parler aussi là venu pour bonne nous et qui manière nous protéger ces bonnes ça Avec les vini pour ça gouvernement qui continue dit yo voulait établir un secteur qui est responsable pour lui et ça kay en agence qui est responsable pour bonne et puis là yo ka dit c'est différents monde qui kay venir ensemble et puis qui kay faire agence ça il parlait dire que ces gens c'est Jean Customs, il parlé de ces gens marins, il aussi immigration, département immigration, aussi il parlait de police force là, toutes ces gens ça et puis yon unit quarantine, département agricole, toutes ces gens ça qui viennent bas, yon parisol, là ils viennent pour protéger bon nous et puis parler et discuter qui manière bon nous kay recueil pli sauve. Les venus pour justice, il y en a ces bagages là nous avons une nouvelle chaque jour ça, c'est les venus pour quand temps après pour dans la presse. Les monde comité avant il trouvait quoi devant l'audience 4 5 6 ans et puis la premier ministre a dit à présent yo savent qu'après 5 pour 6 l'année avant yon monde peut trouver quoi devant magistrat et puis à délai 6 pour 9 ans avant yo peut condamner et ben avant conviction et ben là il a dit yo en l'année 2019 ouais à peu près 680 cas et puis yo en chaque monde ça en ces situations ça a espéré plus passer 2 l'année et puis dit ça pas yo bagay qui acceptable pièce pour la peine il a dit yo après considération et puis yo ga mettre en chaque fond pour assister système justice là les venir pour ces juges là les venir pour l'audience les venir pour l'audience aussi et puis en chaque l'autre façade et dit ou ka yo jamais des officiers les venir pour directeur prosecution et puis les venir pour pays même nous ka c'est avocat ça quoi qu'on nous dit c'est un chaque information mais nous ka si maintenant ka venir nous ka essayer ba ces informations quoi nous la ka espérer pour les speaker house là quand entrer mais c'est Andy Daniel qu'on nous fait comme ça nous ka faut changer ou après nous ka sortir horde kai concite ici à sous 5 camarades là moi Jessica ba ces informations ça.
Absolutely, and just to conclude, we see some rumblings. Hopefully, the parliamentary sitting will begin shortly. But just to conclude, we're just letting you know about the environmental sustainability aspect of the Honourable Prime Minister's budget address in terms of land development. As part of Invest St. Lucia's strategic plan, a target has been set to create 600 new landowners by 2021. Invest St. Lucia has prepared a plan to develop and make available residential land in Dennery, Micoud and Choiseul. And the plan consists of development of 25 residential lots on 5 acres of land in Bois-Joli, a quarter of Dennery, estimated to cost $1 million, 59 lots on 11 acres of land in Beauchamp, quarter of Micoud, estimated to cost $3.33 million, and 130 mixed-use lots on 40 acres of land in Lafarge, Choiseul, estimated to cost EC $7.7 million. The developments are expected to be completed by the end of the fiscal year. Land rationalization. Invest St. Lucia has embarked on a land rationalization project in an effort to address areas heavily occupied by squatters in the unplanned communities located in the south of the island. The project encompasses several communities including Grace Pierrot, Lumiere, La Pelle, Despinoz, Grand Ravine and La Richousse. To date, subdivision surveys are being executed in communities of Pierrot, Grace, Despinoz and La Richousse. Under this project, a total of 800 persons will obtain land title by March 2021. So all part of the efforts of the government of St. Lucia to empower its citizenry at this time. We now go to standby. I believe things are working up for the commencement of the parliamentary proceedings for this morning. If you're just joining us, a special good morning to you. We are live from Parliament Building, live on NTN channel 122 and live on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. You could follow us on any one of those platforms. If you're on the go, if you're mobile, you can just go on our Facebook page, you go on our YouTube channel to continue listening for the parliamentary proceedings today. The budget debate continues following the appropriation bill for 2020-2021 being tabled in the Honourable House on Tuesday by the Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, the Honourable Alan Shasney. We now go to standby for the start of this morning's parliamentary proceedings.
from whom alone cometh all counsel, wisdom, and understanding. We thy unworthy servants are gathered together in thy name, do most humbly beseech thee to send down thy heavenly wisdom from above, to direct and guide us in all our consultations. And grant that we have in thy fear always before our eyes, and laying aside all private interests, prejudices, and partial affections, the result of all our counsels may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion and justice, the safety, honor, and happiness of the Queen, the public will, peace and tranquility of St. Lucia, the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in true Christian love and charity, one towards another. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Ghost be with us all evermore. Honorable members, on the parliamentary clock it is now 17 past 10. I am aware that we may all have our businesses to do, but the business of the people should always take precedent. And our quorum is just 7 to get the business of the people done. We cannot have members getting here for the time so stipulated and have to wait on other members to trickle in. We over an hour and approximately an hour and 20 minutes late. I have so authorized the sergeant as of today to arrest members, to get them in the chamber if needs be, to get the work of the people done. Honorable members, please be reminded that when the House rose, the question was that the Appropriation 2020-2021 bill be read a second time. Member for Vieux North.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Special thanks, Mr. Speaker. Greetings to colleagues. Good morning to members of Parliament, the staff, the police, and all who are watching, all of those who are listening, my constituents of VA4 North. Let me, in a very special way, greet the resilient, productive, and creative, the spiritual people of VA4 North. Let me welcome all those who have joined us from overseas, and in a very special way, I know my mother is watching in New York. Hello, Ma. I hope you are fine. And let me welcome those who have joined us online. Mr. Speaker, I thank God that I'm here this morning. I just want to say, Mr. Speaker, that St. Lucia's story, our story, the crafting of our St. Lucian experience is a journey which started, as we are told, not with the struggles of people who came on ships from Europe or with the slaves who were forced here in chains, but with the Kalinagos, the Arawaks, and other indigenous people. And from then, Mr. Speaker, whether we like it or not, our faith has been influenced mainly by outside events. Dr. Anderson Reynolds of Euphortian and St. Lucian writer, and Dr. Yolin Hamilton, Guy Ellis, and Robert DeVoe, who together describe these events very well in their books, in their publications. The Struggle for Survival by Dr. Reynolds from VA4, and A History of St. Lucia by Dr. Yolin Hamilton, Mr. Robert DeVoe, and Mr. Guy Ellis. These two publications, Mr. Speaker, paint a very dramatic picture of our struggles for survival and our development in St. Lucia. These publications, Mr. Speaker, describe in detail the drastic changes in our St. Lucian society over time, influenced by events, whether they were diseases, influenced by the tribal wars in Europe, the world wars, the Germany versus England versus France, which Professor Patrick Lumumba aptly called the tribal wars. Whether it was trade wars, the information revolution, the worldwide struggles for equity and justice that we witness today, and the fights for freedom. All of these events, Mr. Speaker, have been imposed from outside. And every time these events have been imposed on St. Lucians, a will to fight, to be creative, to stand up, because the stories of our people, the struggle for survival, were real, and all of these struggles helped to shape the St. Lucian experience today. These stories, Mr. Speaker, can be found in the poems of St. Lucians. Many of the freedom fighters, and these poems, these stories can be found in the works of people like Derek Walcott. And these survival stories, Mr. Speaker, and the triumph can be found in the songs of our Calypsonians, in the conte, in the rhythms of drums made from stretched goat skins, yes, from the hides that they are now telling us that we may be prohibited. I can no longer, Mr. Speaker, stretch a goat skin at my house to make drums, but we will come to that. These struggles, the stories of these struggles, can be found in the instruments of so many, Buhingson, and so many of them. And so, Mr. Speaker, I can sense that the worldwide call for justice, for respect of people, for respect of patrimony, for the appreciation of identity, will usher major changes in St. Lucia in our continued struggle for survival. Mr. Speaker, the COVID-19 pandemic is serving as the crucible within which these changes will take place. And so while the people of St. Lucia are pleading with this government and all authorities, including us politicians, to change the way of doing things, while groups in the society are begging the government to change its tone, Mr. Speaker. While the growing voices of St. Lucians were asking for justice in government operations, COVID-19 came and exacerbated everything. The imposition by this government of an extended state of emergency, the arrogance of the government's abuse of power, the government's disrespect through its Prime Minister, through the words of the Prime Minister, the government's shoddy treatment of Parliament by open defiance in the matter of the Deputy Speaker, the government's disregard of the people by barricading Parliament with armed police, and many, many, many more. But Mr. Speaker, as in other times, the people of St. Lucia will use their ingenuity and will rise to the challenge of changing the course of history once again. This budget presentation, Mr. Speaker, by the Prime Minister and member for Miku South by the Minister for Finance, it does not reflect the tidal wave, the kind of tidal wave impacts that COVID-19 will have on us. This budget lacks an understanding of the day-to-day survival struggles of most St. Lucians. This budget, Mr. Speaker, is based on the hope of large infrastructure projects that were designed before COVID-19. This budget, Mr. Speaker, is underpinned by a foundation which gives the lion's share of the benefits of government intervention to foreign-owned multinationals, while St. Lucians are left to hold on to the crumbs of development initiatives, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, all of the evidence suggests that this Prime Minister, who will oversee this budget, the implementation of this budget, once again, uses untruths consistently to base his economic arguments. I repeat, Mr. Speaker, I will show that the underpinnings of this budget are really untruths by the Prime Minister, and untruths, consistent untruths, to base his economic arguments. The underpinnings of this budget, Mr. Speaker, do not appreciate or like a St. Lucian heritage. And you know, Mr. Speaker, the Minister for Finance quickly uses tears or prayers as a fake expression of guilt. In typical Cambridge Analytica style, in public, he prays and asks for forgiveness. But as soon as the prayers are done, he comes to the House on Tuesday night to say the most disgusting things about our party and its members. This, Mr. Speaker, truly is an attempt once again to throw, if I may use CC's expression, of salt in the open wounds of the hearts of St. Lucians, Mr. Speaker. Mind-bending. They're trying hard, Mr. Speaker, to make this PM look good. Try to make us forget the insults and the attacks on our country's finances and on our people. So they use prayer. And in Facebook and social media, St. Lucians will see over and over again thousands of new friend requests, Cambridge Analytica. And to use scripture and prayer to try to fool the people of St. Lucia. And so, Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday night, I sat and listened to the Prime Minister, to his budget speech, and in the style of one of my favorite St. Lucian singer-songwriters of Calypso called Bachelor, I saw what the PM tried to do that night, that Tuesday night, Mr. Speaker. And if I'm allowed by Bachelor, if he's listening, to play with his words a bit, his famous song, I will say to you, Mr. Speaker, we saw what he tried in his speech that night. We saw what you tried last night, Mr. PM. Speaker, he has the heart to repeat all the old promises. We saw what you did that night. From 2017, that first budget speech, the same hotels, building a new St. Lucia, he said, for his friends, same bananas to France. Now he's trying to repeat. He left St. Lucians behind, the people whom he wed on June 16, 2016. And somebody will say amen one of these days. Now the people say enough is enough. Nous boucher. Thank you, Bachelor. So we saw what he tried that night, Mr. Speaker. And the people saw what he tried that night. Mais Lukai Boucher. This budget presentation on Tuesday night, Mr. Speaker, spoke not only to the 2021 prospects as laid out by the government, but the leader of government business, the CEO, as he called himself, the CEO of the corporate cabinet of St. Lucia, as he described it, the board of directors, so to speak. He spoke of his administration's performance over 4 years. Now in the 5th and final year, he tried to describe a new St. Lucia, or his government's version of a new St. Lucia. What I see and feel, Mr. Speaker, what people are saying to me in my constituency, is that a growing number of them, and a growing number of St. Lucians, feel that this is a new and cold St. Lucia. This is a new and cold St. Lucia. Ça pas St. Lucie qui a embrassé tout St. Lucien, Mr. Speaker. For example, government deliberately imposed an extended state of emergency, and the only authority who is given the power by the law to enact regulations under the state of emergency openly breaks his own laws, Mr. Speaker. That's the kind of new St. Lucia that they are trying to develop. So we came to the Parliament, enacted laws, the State of Emergency Powers Act. But the Prime Minister, who has all of the powers, breaks the laws. Our NIC funds, Mr. Speaker, made available to multimillionaires for the development of a golf course, while citizens who are concerned about our heritage and patrimony
Mr. Speaker,
are ignored
on the point of order. The member is imputing improper motive to a member of the House. If he is going to say that the Prime Minister broke the law, then he needs to specify which law was broken. Or else he needs to withdraw the statement, because that is imputing improper motive.
Honorable,
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member?
Yes, I will explain.
Well.
Mr. Speaker, in the regulations indicate that you cannot attend mass crowd events without a mask. The Prime Minister is on record as having been in large groups without a mask. May I continue, Mr. Speaker? A Prime Minister who frequently says untruths.
Mr. Speaker, that's not a law.
The Prime Minister who frequently speaks untruth. You didn't say point of order.
I stand on a point of order again. There are guidelines and there are laws. The member said that the Prime Minister is breaking the law. So he needs to state which law has been broken, because I did not know guidelines became laws.
Mr. Speaker, what I know, as having been in this Parliament for a few years, is that regulations form part of the body of laws that we think. I'm not a lawyer, but neither am I a fool. So if the Prime Minister did not break the law, you prove to me that I didn't break the law. Why do I have to prove that it is there in the law? And the regulations form part of the laws that were passed. The SI, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member. Honorable Member.
I'll quote it, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
Can I quote the law?
No, that's all right. No, I'm just going to guide you on something here, where you said that the honorable member must prove to you that he broke the law. If you're going to allege something, you need to, it's for you to so prove it. You're not shifting the burden to any other member. But in general, I understand the statement that you're trying to make. I'm just going to keep you on track. Continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But just, Mr. Speaker, just to be clear, emergency powers, disasters, COVID-19 curfew number 8 order, wearing of mask and other covering, 15. In an effort to prevent the spread of COVID-19, a person shall wear a mask or other covering fitting over the nose, mouth when in public. General penalty, 16. A person who contravenes this order commits an offense and is liable to imprisonment with or without hard labor for a term not exceeding, and so on and so on. There it is. So, Mr. Speaker, we continue. The Prime Minister frequently, Mr. Speaker, and I said earlier that our NIC funds are being made available to multimillionaires to develop golf course. And this Prime Minister ignores the concerns of citizens who are concerned about our heritage and patrimony. They are literally ignored and figuratively spat on, figuratively. This is the new St. Lucia where the Prime Minister frequently, Mr. Speaker, speaks down to the proud people of this country with expressions such as backing dogs, jackasses, mendicants, stop it to public servants. The opposition has lost their right to speak. And this is the new St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker, where in so many ways they have tried to break our spirit, the spirit of ordinary St. Lucians. Ça c'est un quartier Saint-Lucie qui a développé, Mr. Speaker. Côté Premier ministre, là, Zakouye, Jean Saint-Lucie, tout quartier vieux non qui ni, vieux non insultant, et qui a dit moun saïvle, il a couillé moun tout quartier vieux non. And so yes, the people saw what you tried that night. And Mr. Speaker, he has the heart to return with these promises. Mr. Speaker, in his address, all he did, Mr. Speaker, is to regurgitate his speeches of past years. On page 17, in 2017, of his address, his budget address, and I quote, this is what he said on page 12 of 2017 budget address, page 12. And I quote, "We have already witnessed the opening of the Royalton, where at minimum 900 jobs have been created during operations." He continued to speak of Harbour Club, where an expected 150 jobs were created. And so, Mr. Speaker, if this was delivered in 2017, April or May, how is it that he can claim those jobs? Was the Royalton built in 11 months? No. 900 jobs plus 150. So when you got into government, Mr. Speaker, as soon as you got into government, when you got into government, after just a few months, the projects of the Labour Party started to bear fruit. You got over 1,000 jobs right away. His own words, Mr. Speaker, on page 12 in his budget address of 2017. He continued in 2017 in his budget address. On pages 13 and 14, Fairmont in Choiseul, Curio by Hilton, Honeymoon Bay Resort, Range Developments, Sandals Resort, 8 tourism villages, Ojo Labs. For agriculture, 60 to 70,000 tons of bananas will be exported. And the famous bananas to France, that was 2017. In 2018, on page 17 of his budget address, he goes again. Fairmont, he said that in 2017. Marriott Courtyard, Bay Gardens, Pearl of the Caribbean, some Secrets Hotel. And he repeats in 2018, bananas to France again. In 2019, Honeymoon, Choiseul, the Choiseul Hotel disappeared, as the member for Castries East said, and now there's some Choiseul restaurant. Courtyard at Point Seraphine, a 400-room hotel for Shock, golf course at Cap Estate, and he repeats in 2019, bananas will go to France. On page 41 that year, They will establish new markets in France, bananas to France. In 2020, Point Seraphine, Canals Resort, Cabot, As-Dissab, and again, Mr. Speaker, he repeats, banana markets in France. Mr. Speaker, can you really trust this Prime Minister? Est-ce que Jean Setlissi, ça n'y pièce la foi à un Premier ministre comme ça? Depuis qu'il venu au gouvernement, il est Premier ministre, il a mené presque tout, même ces projets, et qui a promettre Setlissien ces projets ça là. En choisi, là, il dit la qu'il y a un hôtel. Là, il y a 6 hôtels en première année. En deuxième année, 5 développement tourisme. En troisième année, un autre 5 développement tourisme. Et l'année, ça là, il vient avec 6 développement tourisme, Mr. Speaker. Il te dit, la Tekaini, presque 100 000 tonnes de figues. Et tous les années, Premier ministre, pour mettre femme à figues, figues à les France. Fig France. Well, in a while, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure you have heard the earth-shattering news about Windfresh today. But I'll come to that in a while, because I know the Cambridge Analytica friends are already crafting messages to blame the Labour Party after 4 to 5 years for what has happened to Windfresh. But we are coming to that. Mr. Speaker, what is in this budget for VA4 North? What policies in this budget will benefit the people of VA4 North or to make life better for the people of VA4 North? From the Canals Bridge in Savans, the fishers, for the many homeowners with Airbnbs, for small business owners, for the people in Opicon with their accommodation, for these people who are negotiating with Proud and with Invest St. Lucia, the small farmers and the small restaurants. Qui ça qui a obligé ça là pour gens VA4 North qui sortir ces places-là, qui n'est pas business, qui voulait gagner terre en bon prix, sortir en Proud, au Picon, en Grosse, la Retraite. Qui ça qui a obligé ça là-bas? The fishers and farmers of Pierrot, Vigé, Kako, the farmers of Bellevue, the musicians, the artists, the farmers of Grace. What is in it for them? The most important question, Mr. Speaker, is whether since June 2016, the people whom I represent feel that their lives are better than before June 2016. That's the key question. Est-ce que janvier pour nous quoi qui la vie au plus meilleur aujourd'hui passe été avant élection? Et nous pas qu'à parler about COVID. Let's look at it, Mr. Speaker. Many families who have had access, who need access to medical care, both at St. Jude and Victoria, now the OKEU, are still having great difficulty. Now they will say it was there before, but June 2016 happened. Pregnant people from Opicon, a lady called Jane, who could not get delivery done at St. Jude, traveled to Victoria by ambulance. And what about my friend from Bellevue, the over 70-year-old man who suffered from prostate issues and had to be placed in the corridor at St. Jude at the stadium, or the many x-rays that could not be done at the hospital, or the many stories of constituents who were told to take their own bed sheets, bring in their own bed sheets or basic supplies, or the many people whose elective surgeries had to be placed on hold due to lack of beds or supplies. The people whom I speak to from my constituency, Mr. Speaker, advise me that they are not better off in matters of health care. In fact, things got 10 times worse, Mr. Speaker. All this while, horses are being cooled by funds and the government focused on entertainment of a horse racing enterprise rather than better health care for the people. They don't want us to say it, Mr. Speaker. And so without any credible proof, they stopped the St. Jude reconstruction and they claim that the buildings that were originally made for hospital could not hold a hospital. They proceeded, Mr. Speaker, on a frolic of their own to build a frame with no complete approvals, without the report, which costs almost $1 million, which is still hidden from the public and not officially published. And in the 5th and last year, Mr. Speaker, they rushed to complete the frame. One time they say it's 90% complete, another time they say it's 70% complete. So they want to rush this frame, and with no accountability, which is what the people are demanding. Nobody should ask any questions. Personne pas pour me des pièces questions about Zafé Saint-Jude là. Yo ka leve fâché. So for them, we'll build you something as long as it happens before elections. Don't ask us any questions. Mr. Speaker, in public health, they spoke about the 4 same areas. Public health, public health, health system strengthening, upgrade of health sector related infrastructure, improve health and wellness through focus on non-communicable diseases, healthcare financing. If you go to the budget addresses of the past, same thing. 2017, National Health Insurance. 2018, National Health Insurance Scheme. 2019, National Health Insurance Scheme. And all of these things came back, Mr. Speaker. And don't come to me and say, oh, you did it too. And the member for Constituency said it well. The excuse is that, oh, you are to blame. As will be the excuse for bananas to France and Windfresh. It is, Mr. Speaker, like we are not listening to the grumblings of the ground. They are not paying attention, Mr. Speaker. They are insulating themselves from the reality that the world is changing around us and changing rapidly. All around the world, Mr. Speaker, there are cries for justice, that Black Lives Matter. But that cry, Mr. Speaker, extends to a cry for justice, for all lives, for the poor, for the indigent, for the residents who watch governments spend millions of dollars without accounting. This Black Lives Matter movement, which took over the world, snowballed, Mr. Speaker, into other forms of protest for justice. And this government is not changing, Mr. Speaker. Yo pas qu'à changer, parce que tout au lieu la terre, moun ka mande pour justice, en tout bagay. Pas parce que à de cette place, police ka nek tué moun comme ça. Yo ka mande pour justice, parce que yo ka wè jikan cette ici, gouvernement pas ni justice. Yo ka dépenser l'argent sans yo raconter by personne. Yo ka fait ça yo vle avec yo pas qu'à garder compte. Jean Setlissi. No audit report on St. Jude presented, Mr. Speaker. No clarity on the awarding of contracts. No explanations, no regret. And so, Mr. Speaker, the character of the government was on display that night, that Tuesday night, when we saw what he did last night, Tuesday night. The character of the government was on display when the Prime Minister, in trying to compare the Labour Party and the United Workers' Party, indicated that Labour to him is a word which denotes pain, suffering, and hardship. Mr. Speaker, I pause for a few seconds on this. Because for this Prime Minister to try to couch the Labour Party like this, it is very clear once again that this Prime Minister is out of character, out of step with the history of St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. He does not understand the history of St. Lucia. Let me remind him that this labor in the St. Lucia Labour Party, yes, it means hard work. It means making great effort. And in economics, that's what labor means. So when you talk about hardship and hard work and so on, yes, our leaders suffered to ensure that St. Lucians got a better life. Let me remind him, Mr. Speaker, that it was George Charles, the leader of the Labour Party, from as early as the 1930s. Yes, he said it's hard work, hardship, who suffered hardship, Mr. Speaker, to fight against the same colonialism which the PM said had a conscience. That's what the Labour Party means. And so when you say Labour Party is about hardship, it was about the hardship of George Charles and the Labour Party, who ensured, Mr. Speaker, that children from the south of St. Lucia especially were able to go to a secondary school, because the Viewfort Secondary School was built by the Labour Party, was built by George Charles and the Labour Party. Children only had two options, St. Joseph's Convent and St. Mary's College. So yes, it meant hardship by these leaders of the time. It meant hardship because George Charles and his companions and comrades led the struggle to get us the right to vote. It is shameful, Mr. Speaker, for the Prime Minister to be speaking like this. Without the hardship of George Charles and the Labour Party, we would not have had the right to vote the way we enjoy it today, Mr. Speaker. It is George Charles and the same Labour that he decries, who fought for a ministerial system of government in St. Lucia, the struggle for better wages for our workers. And yes, the falsehood about United Workers' Party started the banana industry. Let me remind people once again that it was George Charles and the Labour Party who developed this banana industry in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. It was the machinations of the United Workers' Party in 1964 when they promised the SLBGA certain things. They won the election and changed their minds after. The same thing this time they're promising banana farmers to send their bananas to France. It's very interesting and nostalgic, Mr. Speaker, that what's happening with Windfresh today is happening at a time when this government promised banana farmers to send their bananas to France. A similar thing happened in 1964. And when your party was formed, don't try to stop bending people's minds. Le Parti ut effect, UWP, 1964. By 1953, there were 10,000 banana farmers in the SLBGA, you know. Your party was nowhere yet. UWP was not formed. In 1953, almost a whole 10 years before you were formed, the SLBGA had 10,000 banana farmers. But the Prime Minister stands today and suggests that it's UWP started bananas. Foolishness, Mr. Speaker. These are the kinds of untruths that this Prime Minister says. And he says it in the House over and over again. He does not know his history, Mr. Speaker. So yes, labor means struggle, and labor means hard work. Not easy work from major contracts, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I sat yesterday and listened to the member for Choiseul Saltibus, a man who I really know, or I knew to be a very conscious man in terms of culture and arts and everything, well learned in community stuff. And I listened yesterday in amazement, or with amazement, to the way he decried the opposition and members who were ministers before about roads. He built roads in Choiseul and people banging the door, the table, and all kinds of things, boasting and so on. Very quickly, Mr. Speaker, I just need to remind the good gentleman, Mr. Speaker, that he will never build more roads than Ferguson John and the St. Lucia Labour Party built in Choiseul Saltibus. Never. Yeah, Bousquet, Coljon, all of them. He will never build more roads. And that's the thing, Mr. Speaker, this budget debate, yes, you should boast what you did in your constituency. That is very important. But this life-changing moment of COVID-19 and these life-changing circumstances of COVID-19 is really not a time for only boasting about roads and so on.
Honourable members,
Mr. Speaker, I hate to interrupt the member, but I never said I built more roads than anybody. What I said, Mr. Speaker, that under the Prime Minister, I have had more money spent on contracts in my community. I never specifically said roads, Mr. Speaker. So I just want to make that very clear, because he seems to emphasize on roads.
No.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, that's even worse. That's not what I said, Mr. Speaker.
You may continue.
I am just making a statement that when members opposite talk about projects in the constituencies, that's all good. You have to do that. But since Mr. Speaker is talking about roads, I want to remind him that that is not what his legacy will be, Mr. Speaker. And every single one of us. There are certain salient things in our parliamentary life that will form our legacy. And some of us, that legacy is already, certain things that will resonate even after you die. And even after each one of us dies. The people will appreciate the roads and they need the roads, they will thank you for it. But in a decade's time, another parliamentary rep may come, or 20 years. And that is not the salient thing they will remember you for. And I want to describe to you, Mr. Speaker, what the people of St. Lucia will remember the member for Choiseul for. And so all of the banging and all of the noise and the clapping and so on, good for parliamentary banter, but in this COVID-19 situation, where St. Lucians are looking for a different direction and a different consensus, Mr. Speaker, let me tell you what his legacy will be. He signed a document giving close to 1,000 acres of land of the people's patrimony to one man, Mr. Speaker, to establish a horse racing facility. They say it's close to $2.5 billion worth. The documents that we laid in the parliament, which they did all kinds of things, but they cannot yet present the valid, what they say is the valid document. That document also describes the area where the stadium is, 90 acres. It also describes the whole of Sandy Beach. They came afterwards and say Sandy Beach is no longer in it. It describes all of this area. He signed the document, and then when quizzed by the press, he said he never read the document. In any other country with stringent regulations, this member could never sit in cabinet again after that, Mr. Speaker. That will be his legacy. That is what he will be remembered for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. That DSH deal, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker, on a point of order. What will your legacy be? Mr. Speaker, I never said I never read the document, Mr. Speaker. Honourable member, you should not mislead the House.
Honourable member, the member is saying that he
did he say he never
read the document. You said that he said when questioned that he did not read the document.
So he's saying today that he never said he never read the document?
Yes, honourable member. So,
okay.
so
right.
correct yourself.
So let that go in the record, Mr. Speaker. We shall have another opportunity.
And
okay?
so correct yourself for the time being.
Pardon me?
So correct yourself for the time being.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, for the time being. So the member for Choiseul is saying here today that he never said that he never read the document. He had not read the document. But, Mr. Speaker, having said that, this will be his legacy.
Listen, honourable member. Honourable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, I continue. And I plead for the people in my constituency, Mr. Speaker, for Mr. Jeffrey of Bellevue, Sam, Sister Teresa, Sister Monica Concom from Opicon, Mr. Noko, who rears sheep and goats, Mr. Speaker, Moses, the pineapple man of grace, Blessings of Piero, who vends produce, fishers like Fuji, Holder, Sister J, the Simos farmers of Opicon, and the Grace Farmers Group, the Kako Vige Fair Trade Group, Mr. Speaker. There can be no economy, whether advanced or developing, Mr. Speaker, that can survive a major shock if their local food systems are not intact. The question I need to ask, Mr. Speaker, are the farmers of St. Lucia better off today than they were in 2016? How do the farmers feel? Qui m'a laissé farmer garder la vie aujourd'hui? Est-ce que plus mais aujourd'hui a passé avant l'élection? Has the Minister for Agriculture and Prime Minister demonstrated their empathy for the farmers and the fishers of St. Lucia? Mr. Speaker, on page 41 of his speech, the Prime Minister indicated, that's this year's speech, Now, we will see a transformed agricultural sector over 3 to 4 years. So, in the 5th year of the government, he's now saying there's going to be a transformation in agriculture in 3 to 4 years. That's not what he said in 2017 on page 16. In 2017, he said that in 3 years' time, they'll be exporting 70,000 tons of bananas. You know what the exports were? In 2016, it was 14,907 tons. You cannot allocate that to them at all, because from June 2016 to the budget, I don't know which farmer can plant bananas and export it. In 2017, 13,310 tons. In 2018, 14,793. In 2019, 11,858. The revenue, same thing. In 2016, 21.7 million. In 2017, 18.5 million. In 2017, 18.5. 2018, 21.4. And 2019, 11.1 million.
Point of order.
I would like the member, Mr. Speaker, to quote where he's getting his figures from.
Honorable member, you may stand. You made mention 3 to 4 years, page 41 of the current Prime Minister's statement. I just want you, I'm not sure if it's because of the way yours is printed or...
Okay, Mr. Speaker, I can quote for you.
Yes.
Page 41, and this is the speech 2020, last paragraph. And I quote, so Mr. Speaker, barring the occurrence of any major natural disaster, I am confident that St. Lucia will see a transformed agricultural sector over the next 3 to 4 years, unquote. So, can I continue, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, no, I was not referring to the Prime Minister's speech. I was referring to where he got the figures from, 2014, 2013, and so on. I want to know where he got these figures from. If he cannot say where he got these figures from, he has to withdraw his statement. Yeah.
No. Mr. Speaker. Yeah. Mr. Speaker. May I, Mr. Speaker? Can I?
Honorable members, let's not stand this morning. Good sir.
Yes.
It is, we're not talking here of whether documents should be tendered or not. That's not the issue. I do not want members to believe that they do not have an obligation. Honorable member?
Yes, sorry.
I do not want you or any other member to believe you don't have an obligation to the House. You have an obligation to the House. And I'm not talking here about whether you tender documents. Guidelines, it makes no sense just simply saying St. Lucia raised $2 billion in 2015. It would be better if you say $2 billion according to Economic and Social Review 2015, that was said.
Okay.
Continue.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am absolutely sure that my figures are correct. That's why the member did not say that I was misleading the House. But let me just say, Mr. Speaker, the Social Economic Review of 2016, 2017, and 2018, every single one of them can verify my figures. So, Mr. Speaker, may I continue? Mr. Speaker, they are just trying to delay my presentation, but I am not daunted. The bottom line, Mr. Speaker, is that this government has failed. This government has failed the banana farmers of St. Lucia, and that is the bottom line. They have not exported more bananas than we exported in 2016 or even years before that. This government, this Minister for Agriculture, Mr. Speaker, owes the farmers an apology, promising the farmers bananas to France. Up to this year, you can di farmer kay voye fig en France, et qui vle doubout kay la ka doubout moins après di ça pas vrai. Est-ce que ça voye pièce fig en France? Quoi fig là qui allait en France là? figla ki a la France la. Mr. Speaker, they have not exported any more bananas. They tried a couple of years ago to say that they have increased banana exports by 200%. Wrong again. So, Mr. Speaker, the same with other crops and so on. The increases that we have seen so far do not project the trend that we had from 2012 to 2016. The narrative, Mr. Speaker, is very clear. An important sector like agriculture needs clear intervention post-COVID, not the promises of bananas to France again to fool the farmers, Mr. Speaker. Where are the bananas to France? And I want the member from Babuno, Mr. Speaker, when he speaks, to give me the figure that shows more exports of bananas in his current term than when we were there last year. I'm waiting, Mr. Speaker. I'm waiting for the tonnage, and I'm waiting for the value in millions. You will not find it. You will search through Timbuktu. You'll go get salt to spread, but you'll not find these figures. This is where, Mr. Speaker, we find that we are different to them. Where are we today? The ideas and policies that are not listed in the presentation are these ideas, Mr. Speaker, that people are looking for. What are the farmers of Babuno saying? Est-ce que farmers Babuno satisfait? Est-ce que farmers Babuno a primaire aujourd'hui? Mr. Speaker, in the COVID-19 situation, this government by now should have purchased all good quality food from recognized farmers. They should have increased registration of new farmers, especially in new commodities. This government should by now be preparing to fill the kitchens of schools with locally produced food when school reopens. This government by now, Mr. Speaker, should have hired nutritionists and cooks so that when school reopens with this COVID-19 situation, all parents have to do is to get their children ready and send them to school in the morning, where they get breakfast, lunch, and a break in the afternoon, Mr. Speaker. In this COVID-19 situation, this government, Mr. Speaker, should be quickly refurbishing school kitchens, as we did when we were in government. My pledge, Mr. Speaker, as a minister was this, that no school should have a kitchen that is less equipped than a kitchen of any hotel in St. Lucia. And if you go around the kitchens that we refurbished, Mr. Speaker, during our improved school feeding program, you will see the kinds of kitchens that we refurbish. With the help of Lucilec and other corporate entities, we partnered with them because we believe in an improved school feeding program. And they talk about school feeding program. What do they know about this kind of school feeding program? To purchase more flour. Our program purchased more local food. Our program improved the kitchens. And you go to the Viewford Primary School kitchen, you go to the Marshall School, you will see what we did to the kitchens. Richford and 13 other schools, Mr. Speaker. That is what we're talking about when we talk about a government that is ready to radically change things, especially in this COVID-19 situation. You are not ready yet. They are not ready yet, Mr. Speaker. Instead, they bring the statutory instrument 80. And I heard the member for Choiseul talking about if somebody makes charcoal by your home and so on. Of course we know that's wrong. Of course we know that. But that is not the intention of the SI, Mr. Speaker. In my view, the intention of the SI is to collect revenue. It's a cash-strapped government that is searching everywhere to collect revenue. And as I said before, it means, therefore, Mr. Speaker, that I cannot stretch a goat hide at my home anymore without paying a license. This is what you have in the SI. We use goat skins to make drums all around St. Lucia. You think the Prime Minister would know anything about that? So I cannot buy a goat skin and stretch it on my own home, which is the practice of our people, our musicians, our traditional musicians. And I do it all the time, to stretch a goat skin so that we prepare it to make our drums. A simple thing like that, Mr. Speaker, we cannot do it. It didn't say commercially. Prove it where it says commercially. So, Mr. Speaker, you see all of these things are coming in, and the Prime Minister does not understand St. Lucians. So people with goat skin, lapoka bit, and so on, you only pour a license who fait un lapoka bit avec un tambour. But to them, Mr. Speaker, that's not important. That is not important to them. Mr. Speaker, on pages 12 and 13 of the PM speech, he lists a number of initiatives. You know what should have happened, Mr. Speaker? All of these changes to the charcoal situation and all of that, Mr. Speaker, all of these changes, if the government intended for them to be national movements of change, there will be meetings with the charcoal producers. The charcoal producers of Opicon, the Opicon charcoal producers, you know, an association, Mr. Speaker, Opicon charcoal producers, and there are so many others who depend on charcoal for a livelihood. And of course, we know that there are issues, but there are issues with several other businesses in St. Lucia, and you don't see all of these draconian measures. But look at where they're attacking, Mr. Speaker. Look at where they're attacking. Yes, we need regulations. Yes, we need measures. But when you look at the timing of it, Mr. Speaker, and the revenue-generating measures, this government is cash-strapped, and they're squeezing money out of all little St. Lucians who are trying to make ends meet. Put the regulations, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to tell you that that is not the issue. That is a major issue, but that's not why you all put it. Of course, I believe that you cannot have charcoal pits by your home. And they've always been the public health officer, Mr. Speaker, environmental health officer. When there are issues like that, they come to the area and get it stopped. I have clear experience with that. I have clear experience with that in the area where I live. The environmental health officer does it. They've been doing it. The environmental health officer, okay, pig pens and those kinds of things, go and enforce the regulations. There is nothing new about that. What is new is that this government is using this situation to raise revenue that they are cash-strapped. So the revenue that they're taking it from every little person all around the place. That's what it is. Mr. Speaker, out of this budget, I continue to say that this government, Mr. Speaker, charge everybody who purchases a gallon of fuel $1.50, which they say will build roads. I say to them, Mr. Speaker, that the people in my constituency pay $1.50 too. The people of Belleville, Grace, Pierrot, Kako and Vigier, Saint-Jean-Vevacella, they also pay $1.50. The fishers in Vieux-Fort North, c'est pêcheurs, you can pay l'agence à tout. The car drivers pay about $6,000 a year. The fishers pay $6,000 or $13,000 a year in fuel. Why are we not getting our share of rehabilitation of roads in Vieux-Fort North? Is it to punish? But you are charging the people $1.50. Mr. Speaker, this government has to be just. The COVID-19 situation, Mr. Speaker, calls for leaders to refashion their sense of community and community togetherness. This government's medium-term strategy, Mr. Speaker, does not reflect the urgency with which COVID-19 should be attacked. Mr. Speaker, look at the water situation. The chairman of WASCO, since my discussions in the estimates debate, Mr. Speaker, has spoken to me a number of times relating to my concerns at Foncapech. I want to thank him for that, but at the same time, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge the government to continue to look at this situation at Foncapech. Instead, Mr. Speaker, WASCO is building a $7 million office complex in Vieux-Fort. Right now, over the last week, even though we have rain, there is no water at Pierrot. So, Mr. Speaker, where are the priorities?
Est-ce que
WASCO, ça fait un building, Mr. Speaker, qui $7 millions avec ces gens Pierrot, ces gens Opicon, même si l'applique à Tobé, il n'y a pas ça jouer une glue. And I understand the technical officers say technical issues. But I urge WASCO, Mr. Speaker, the same way when there were water problems in the north a few months ago, every single day there was an ad on the radio, Mr. Speaker. The people of Vieux-Fort North, your party deserve an ad. I urge WASCO, Mr. Speaker, to tell the people of Pierrot and Opicon something about the water. I understand that they call me, the technical officers call me, and I have said so to them. Don't treat our people as if you cannot spend money to put ads on the radio for people of Vieux-Fort North. Because I know pas tout. For weeks, for days, no water. And I do understand the challenges, but let the people know through ads. Mr. Speaker, as I close, I plead in this budget, Mr. Speaker, for the small business people of Vieux North, for the hairdressers like El Githa in Bellevue and Donna of Moncaen. And in the budget, there is provision for soft loans and that kind of thing. But these people need grants, Mr. Speaker, to allow them to keep 1 or 2 members of staff. Fraser in Opicon, Rudy's son at Grace, Onan, Miss Syra, Bilok from Grace, Mr. Speaker. All of these people are small business people who employ 1 or 2 people. Si c'est moun salani pour l'argent, c'est mon parce que COVID-19, la gagné plus pauvreté en commune Vieux-Fort-Nord. Kim at La Paix, Shirley and Bra, the Kedus in Dimai, Rafati and them, toutes ces moun sanity business Vieux-Fort-Nord. Ye and the Colimos at Grace, Shane, Miss Shira in Bellevue, Eugenie in Moncaen, Lucia Neptune, all of these people, Mr. Speaker, speak to me through other people and say that things are difficult. They have to work through this COVID business. And while there are loans in the budget, soft loans and so on, I plead, Mr. Speaker, for the government to reconsider and to give these people grants. We have spoken about the charcoal producers and we have made our position clear. So, Mr. Speaker, enough is enough. The state of emergency, the extension of the state of emergency, placed St. Lucians in a situation where the government is choking with the policies and the attitudes. St. Lucians want to breathe. So, Mr. Speaker, the people of St. Lucia have listened to this Prime Minister, going on 5 years now. Ils ont écouté Premier Ministre et qui a allé using wrong information, untruths, threatening St. Lucians, calling us all kinds of names, imposing a state of emergency, then breaking the law. No, they say it's not the law. Breaking agreements with the National Trust, giving away our birthright. And then, Mr. Speaker, there is Honorable Philip J. Pierre, member for Castries East. I want St. Lucia to look at the two of them. Approach the challenge in Castries East. He stuck to the task, was returned 5 times, success in government, trustworthy, truthful, hardworking, in the interest of all St. Lucians. Compare the two, Mr. Speaker, with new ideas for secure St. Lucia, considering all the challenges that we have. Who will put St. Lucians first? He did not run to a seat that he considered safe. He battled in Castries East, and he stayed there for the people of Castries East. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I will say this. This is an historic moment for banana farmers and Windfresh, for the COVID-19 challenges. This is an historic moment. And I will say this in the House, Mr. Speaker. The people of Castries East and the people of Castries have an historic responsibility. We have never had a Prime Minister who led his party to victory who is from Castries, Mr. Speaker. The current Prime Minister went to Miku South. We have had deceased Alan Louisi from Labrie. The Chief Minister was George Charles from Castries South. So we're talking about Prime Ministers. We're talking about Dr. Kenny Anthony from Vieux-Fort South. We have never had a Prime Minister leading a party from Castries. So there is an important responsibility for the people of Castries, Mr. Speaker. 2, we have an important responsibility that the people of Castries, for the very first time, have an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to elect the Honorable Philip J. Pierre and to cause his party to win the elections. And for the first time, you will have a Prime Minister from Castries. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Babono.
So where vote was from? You all vote.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. Wow, what a presentation. Mr. Speaker, I rise to make my contribution. And I want to say this year, I will take the opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to speak about my constituency first. Because my constituents have been telling me, look, they're not hearing I'm talking a lot about what's happening in the constituency of Babonneau. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that for the past 4 years, with the support of my cabinet and the Prime Minister, and of course with the support of my constituents, a lot has been accomplished. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, a lot more will be accomplished when I would win the elections next year and return to represent the people of Babonneau. The reason why I'm saying that, Mr. Speaker, is because going on the other side, going around telling people from Babonneau that I am not running again. Let me make it clear here today. Let me make it clear today that I am running the Babonneau seat as long as the people of Babonneau agree for me to run the Babonneau seat. Mr. Speaker, I have no problems with the opposition walking through the constituency. I have no problems with the leader of the opposition meeting with people in my constituency on a Saturday afternoon. I will not drive around, Mr. Speaker, and follow the leader of the opposition in my constituency, as we've seen done in other constituencies when the Prime Minister goes around, especially in Vifort, in Dennery North. I will not do that, Mr. Speaker. I'll tell my people to entertain him, question him, and find out from him what is it that they have planned for Babonneau. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately he's not there. He has no plans. All he's saying, I can make commitments. I can make commitments. I'm not one of the politicians making commitments. But, Mr. Speaker, if you want to represent this country, you must have a vision. You must have a plan. You can't go to the people and tell the people you have no plans. You have no plans, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I heard the member from Castries East, Mr. Speaker, when he presented, and I'm quoting him, Mr. Speaker, we will not allow you to put your hands in the electoral process. We will not allow you to do this. Mr. Speaker asks the question,
If you're afraid, why are you afraid of so?
why would the member from Castries East make that announcement, Mr. Speaker? And I'm asking that question, Mr. Speaker, because I have had the experience. I've had the experience, Mr. Speaker, and I'm sure Minister Mortud can speak to it too. We have had the experience where they put their hands in the electoral process. In 2000, and I'm going to prove it, in 2011, Mr. Speaker, they put their hands in the electoral process. So if you can come now and say you will not allow us to do it, we're not doing it. You have the experience of doing it. Because it's 2011, Mr. Speaker, Babono won by 68 votes the night of elections. Babono won by 68 votes. What happened, Mr. Speaker? The member that ran against me, Ms. Alvina Reynolds, asked for a recount. And two days afterwards, Mr. Speaker, of the recount, Babono lost by 2 votes. We won by 68 votes the night of elections. 2 days afterwards, Mr. Speaker, Babono lost by 2 votes, which means 70 votes had to come to be transferred to good votes. That's a math, Mr. Speaker. 70 votes had to be converted to good. Rejected ballots had to be converted to good votes. Rejected ballots went down by 34 votes, Mr. Speaker. Rejected ballots went down by 34 votes. These are the facts. And if you give Ms. Reynolds all the 34 votes, and that's not what happened, that I got some of the rejected ballots, and she got some. Where the other 36 votes came from? I know that I was told, Mr. Speaker, I know that I was told by Mr. Lacorbinier when I said I want a final count. I know that I was told by Mr. Lacorbinier. Mr. Joseph, you ran a good campaign. You ran a clean campaign, and that's true. I'm not one of those who go on a platform and deny great people. I'll speak about the issues, and that is true. But I want to warn you, there's nothing as a final count. The only recourse that you have is to go to the courts. And I want to advise you, Mr. Joseph, that you'll hear that case in 2020. You'll hear that case in 2020.
Mr. Speaker,
because...
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is imputing improper motives on members on the other side. But more than that, Mr. Speaker, as presiding officer, this is a very damning indictment of the Electoral Commission of St. Lucia and the electoral officers who oversee elections in St. Lucia to suggest, Mr. Speaker, that votes were added overnight, Mr. Speaker, because he says he lost by 68, and I listened to him carefully. The following day he lost by 2, which means 70 votes, but only 34 spoiled ballots were less. That means somebody put in 36 votes. An honourable member is up in this house without providing evidence, Mr. Speaker, suggesting that the Electoral Commission of St. Lucia stole the seat from him through electoral manipulation and an electoral offense, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
Honorable,
this is a very serious...
Honorable.
It is.
Honorable.
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members. Honorable.
And I think, Mr. Speaker, you should ask the honourable member to withdraw those comments for his attack on the integrity of the Electoral Commission and the Chief Electoral Officer.
Honorable member. Honorable member. Honorable member. Honorable. I would say to you, I have listened and I allowed you to make your presentation because you were referring to or making reference to what the leader of the opposition said.
That's right.
So I have no issue with that. He has not gone, in my view, one to cast aspersions on any member sitting around the table. That's one. Secondly, I don't think the Honorable Member Babono has crossed that line for me to so believe that he has said what you indicating that he may have said. Because in the same maths, it would mean that the 46 votes may very well have been in the recount. The 46 votes may very well have been improperly counted votes. Improperly counted votes. So, Honorable Member Babono, I will say to you, I have noted what you said. Be so careful, sir, that you don't cast aspersions on the integrity on our bodies, that constitutional bodies that we have on our Constitution. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm not doing that, honestly. I'm not doing that, Mr. Speaker. I'm just making reference to what the leader of the opposition said, that he would not allow us to do it. And since I had the experience, Mr. Speaker, of winning on the night of elections and losing 2 days afterwards, I was just asking the question, Mr. Speaker, why is it that you would have made a statement like that, he would not allow us to do it? Is it that he have had the experience of doing it? And of course, Mr. Speaker, if you remember at Mr. Deteville's funeral, it was said in the eulogy. But Mr. Speaker, let's move on. Mr. Speaker, let's move on. I want to say it's 2020. Today is 2020. This year we're in 2020, Mr. Speaker. And the case will again be heard in 2021 in Babono. Mr. Speaker, I heard the member from Castries East speaking to 4 wasted years. 4 wasted years, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I ask myself, what is he referring to when he speaks about 4 wasted years? Because, Mr. Speaker, the records are showing that this United Workers' Party, under the leadership of Honorable Alan Shastney, member from Miku South, has performed for the past 4 years. Has performed over the 4 years, Mr. Speaker. And the records are here to show, Mr. Speaker, Economic and Social Review of 2019, page 57, Mr. Speaker, is showing, page 57, and that's, you have to cut what you're talking about. I'll come to you in a while. Sorry. I thought you were coming with something, but you leave it from the member for Denver North, but I'll tell you in a while too. Mr. Speaker, the records are showing that under the leadership of Honorable Alan Shastney, Mr. Speaker, we have performed. So when the member is saying that we have wasted 4 years, Mr. Speaker, the labor force and employment records are showing that we are doing something good. Our policies are bearing fruits, Mr. Speaker, and that is the reality on the ground, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, as it pertains to Babono, I must say that the years between 2011 and 2016 were wasted years. Wasted years, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure you'll allow me, because I'm hearing that project get finished, they are the ones who do it, and projects we found there, they are the ones who started it. So I'm asking myself, how would I be able to speak to the commitments that I gave, Mr. Speaker, in 2011, Mr. Speaker, when, unfortunately, this mishap happened. Mr. Speaker, I made some commitments in 2011, And I want to go through it. And that's a document of the House, because it has been brought to the House by other people. So it's a document of the House. I made some commitments in 2011, Mr. Speaker, under sports and culture. I said that if I was re-elected, and of course I was re-elected, but after 2 days something happened, I would have finished the multi-purpose court at Union Terrace. I'd already started that multi-purpose court, Mr. Speaker. I would have finished it. I would have finished the construction of the multi-purpose court at Timon and Kako, Mr. Speaker. I would construct community halls at Union Terrace, Timon, Kako, and Lakwa. I will continue improving lighting on our major playing fields. And I will construct a new playing field at Bogus and Gara, Mr. Speaker. And of course, continue with the sporting activities that we are having in Barbano. Under infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, I said I would have upgraded the Lager Health Center to a level 2 health center. I will construct a new fire station. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm hearing that they are the ones, they're taking claim for the fire station. That's okay. That's okay. I open it. I open it, Mr. Speaker. I'll construct a new school at Lager. That's a commitment I gave in 2011, Mr. Speaker. I'll construct a new wing of the Forester Primary School. And I'll continue the improvement of our community roads throughout Barbano, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, again, I continue with social programs, because you not only got infrastructure, you have got the social programs and the economic programs. And what I would have done, as far as a home for the elderly, continue our youth development program, and launch and strengthen our young people in self-esteem, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what happened between 2011 to 2016, Mr. Speaker? The multi-purpose court that was started in Union Terrace, the Minister of Youth and Sport never continued it. The then Minister of Youth and Sport never continued it. The multi-purpose court that started in Timon, the Minister of Youth and Sport, through the Parliamentary representative, never continued it. Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of order. And the Minister or the member for Barbano has said this previously, and I've had to correct him. I challenge him to provide any documentation to show that the projects that he mentioned, in particular the Timon and Union Courts, that there was ever document in the Ministry of Youth Development reflecting any such projects. He undertook those projects when he had his Taiwanese allocation. That the ministry had absolutely no jurisdiction over these two projects. And those were CDP projects executed at the time in the ministry where the CDP funds were being administered and were being accounted for. Those were never projects in the remit of the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports.
Honorable member, you
Mr. Speaker, can I continue?
take note of, so you do not...
I take note of his what you say, Mr. Speaker. Now I'll come to what he did. I'll come to it. Right. Mr. Speaker, of course, the Lager Health Center to a level 2 was done after 3 years in representing the people of Barbano. The fire station started 4 years afterwards, Mr. Speaker. The new school for Lager, and I've been speaking about that, Mr. Speaker, and I've been told by my colleague, Minister, member for Nico North, that we are going to start the school this year. And the people of Lager will get a new school. Because I'm sure those of us in this honorable house remember, Mr. Speaker, when I spoke about a new school for Lager, the leader of the opposition said that Lager does not need a new school. Leader of the opposition, le Prime Ministre, cette ici, dit c'est Jean Barbanoa, c'est Jean Lager, il n'y a pas besoin d'une école neuve. Et bien, tu as oublié le Prime Minister, but not even able. He was there. He said it. He said it.
Order, Mr. Speaker.
You know?
The member for Castries has never said such, and you need to quote him correctly. Mr. Speaker, this is misleading the House. You're asking us, Mr. Speaker, to provide evidence. The member from Castries did not say that. Go and get the Hansard and show us exactly where it was said if he said it. Quote Hansard and what page it was said. quote the Hansard where it was said. I can speak for him because he's not in the House. Mr. Speaker, we ought not to allow aspersions be cast against members who are not in the House.
Honorable members. Honorable members. Member Babono. I'm going to ask you to take note of the statement being made. I know you're a citizen member, so you know how to conduct yourself.
No problem, Mr. Speaker. I will go through Hansard and I'll quote the page in Hansard when he said it in this honorable House, Mr. Speaker, that his government did not see the need to build a new school in Lage. He said it, Mr. Speaker. So I don't know what he's talking about. So, Mr. Speaker, I must say, Mr. Speaker, that a lot has been done in Babono, and quickly, Mr. Speaker, let me run through what we have done in Babono.
You have a vehicle, you don't know whose vehicle that there. You think you know what done without your
Mr. Speaker, in the Balata Timon area, we have resurfaced the Balata Court. Wasn't that a project under you? We have resurfaced this ferry road. We have constructed a new road going into Setut, inside ferry. We have done the Saltfish Road in Balata. We have assisted in improving the surface, the road in Texaco Heights. Mr. Speaker, we have upgraded the Timon Court. That's reform. Nothing substantial is done about it, Mr. Speaker. And of course, the Balata lights. You know nothing about that too, member for Denrinoff? The Balata lights that were supposed to come on in December of 2011. It finally came on in December of 2016, Mr. Speaker. 5 years. 5 years, Mr. Speaker. They did nothing with the Balata lights. You know what happened? RAT took it over. I had to go look for resources to refurbish the lights and redo the field. Right? No? We put on the lights in Balata. And of course, Mr. Speaker, we were able to refurbish the Timon Road, Mr. Speaker. Completely refurbish the Timon Road. Mr. Speaker, in Kabish, we expanded the inner road in Kabish, Mr. Speaker, and we built a number of returning walls and make provisions for at least controlling water in the Kabish area. In Kakoji, Mr. Speaker, we construct drains, we made roads, we construct a new road, we made footpaths, we constructed the Ramonas Road in Kabish, Mr. Speaker. In Hill 20, Babono, Mr. Speaker, we extended the water supply, we run new pipes, Mr. Speaker, and of course we improved the water system in Hill 20 in Babono, Mr. Speaker. In Lakwa, Gawa, Mr. Speaker, we refurbished the Gawa IT Center. We acquired 2 acres of land, Mr. Speaker, in Gawa to expand the Gawa Cemetery, because we have 3 cemeteries in Babono. The Babono Cemetery Central and Foanso, these cemeteries, Mr. Speaker, is overpopulated, as you would, Speaker. And we had to look for a new area, so we had lands in Ghana. We purchased land in Ghana, Mr. Speaker. We extended the cemetery in Ghana. We fenced it, Mr. Speaker. We built toilets. We built a little chapel, Mr. Speaker, and a little shed for people to go in there if it's raining when they are burying their loved ones, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in Lakwa, Ghana again, just before elections, a piece of land I acquired when I made a commitment to build a field in Resina, in Gawa. They hurriedly run and try to do some work in Gawa, Mr. Speaker, in Resina. You know nothing about that? Remember then enough? You know, a swimming pool, Mr. Speaker. Since I came back, I have done what is necessary to make sure that the young people in Resina has a place to recreate, Mr. Speaker. Now the challenge is, Mr. Speaker, the footballers are saying they don't want a cricket pitch on it. The cricketers are saying they want a pitch on the field. So I'm meeting them over the weekend to try and thrash this thing out once and for all, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that is what we call proper representation. Speaker, I can continue. Blue Cock, we did what I call it Blue Cock Road. That's how the gentleman, one of the gentlemen living there, in fact, he has been I'm requesting that support. We've resurfaced the Blue Cock Road in Ghana, Mr. Speaker. And of course, we did a number of footpaths by the Bisset residents and other residents in Ghana, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Pebush Lager, we construct the Mata Road, we construct the Blankman Road in Chickenback Street, Mr. Speaker. We rehabilitated the Lager playing field. I'm just speaking about the Lager playing field. Again, Mr. Speaker, the Lager field, first for Babono and first for this country. The Lager field, Mr. Speaker, was the first field in a rural community in St. Lucia with lights on it. The first field, Mr. Speaker. When we came in, and I came back in, Mr. Speaker, the lights were disconnected, the lights were not functioning, high electricity bill. I had to get $35,000 to pay Lucille, Mr. Speaker. And of course, to get resources to refurbish the light and to redo the Lager field, Mr. Speaker. Remember, from Beaufort North, from Denry North knows nothing about that? Mr. Speaker, now I'll speak to other things, but let me move on. You know, the Speaker, we also were able to refurbish the Lager field, put sitting accommodation on the Lager field, Mr. Speaker, and we're going to do much more on the Lager field, Mr. Speaker. For Asa Tishime, we refurbished the Tishime Road, Mr. Speaker. We refurbished the plain area for the preschool, and I want to say here today, Mr. Speaker, before the reopening of school, with the support of the Skyride in Shasta, we are getting equipment to furnish the plain area, swings and little things for the children to recreate. So I want to express my appreciation to Skyride, Mr. Speaker, and the leadership of the CEO. Mr. Speaker, Debara, of course, water tanks and the Debara field was taken care of. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that some of the major projects accomplished in Babono, one would be the improving of the water system in Babono, Mr. Speaker. It's only right for Babono, you went to Gara, you go through Lakwa, people have a lot of tanks and drums behind the house because they have to collect water because of the infrequency of water, Mr. Speaker. Babono is called the land of water, and they have that Hill 20 treatment plant there. Now, people of Babono can boast that they get a reliable supply of water, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank, of course, the WASCO, people at WASCO for understanding and appreciating that. Mr. Speaker, I want to continue. Of course, we opened the fire station. And Mr. Speaker, we speak about laptops. Speak about laptops, Mr. Speaker. Between 2006 and 2011, I started a laptop program in Babono. And I saw that's where they got the idea from when it came in 2011. My laptop program was, Mr. Speaker, every child in Babono Primary School, every top child that scored over 75 marks, will get a laptop as a gift. And the most outstanding school in Babono would get a laptop as a gift. I started that program in 2008. I want to say since coming back, Mr. Speaker, I've continued that program and I will continue. So, my students in Babono understand and they appreciate what we are doing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, since we came back, apart from putting floodlights or improving the floodlights on the Lager and Barata field, Mr. Speaker, I have been able to do some work on the François field, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, very interesting, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the amount of money that was spent on the François field, Mr. Speaker, over $700,000. member for Denver North, over $700,000 was spent on the forehouse of field, and nothing to show for it. Nothing. There's a contract, Mr. Speaker, in December 2013 of $462,475.30 to improve the surface of the forehouse of field, Mr. Speaker. There's another contract, Mr. Speaker, of $226,418 to build a change room. $226, Mr. Speaker, $226,418 to build a change room. Almost $700,000 spent on the forehouse playing field, and nothing to show for it, Mr. Speaker. Nothing. I had to get resources, Mr. Speaker. And if I had had these resources, Mr. Speaker, I wonder how I would have made miracles. Mr. Speaker, I've spent $497,000. And let me tell you where the amount of work I have done with that $497,000, Mr. Speaker. I was able to get Mr. Crafton to resurface the forehouse field for me for $40,000. They paid 400 and something, 400, how much, Mr. Speaker, I said? 462,000 to resurface the forehouse field. No, 462,000, Mr. Speaker, to resurface the forehouse field. I was able to get Mr. Crafton to do it for me for $40,000. $40,000, Mr. Speaker. I was able to put lights on the forehouse field for $360,000. They had an allocation, they had a budget, Mr. Speaker. They had a project proposal to put lights on the forehouse of field, Mr. Speaker, for almost $600,000. Almost $600,000 to put lights on the forehouse of playing field. I got it done for $360,000, Mr. Speaker. Of course, I spoke about the Barata field. I had to get resources to refurbish the Barata field, Mr. Speaker. And of course, to pay for the lights, the outstanding bill for Lager, and to do some work on the Lager film, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, when you heard about wasting of resources, and you want to blame and you want to compare our achievements with what you all have achieved, you want to compare this, Mr. Speaker? There's no room to compare, Mr. Speaker. You can't compare them. Mr. Speaker, for 2000, I will not speak about 2021. In fact, I will not speak about my next term. In 2021, I'll give an indication as to what is it I'm going to do when we get re-elected as a government. But, Mr. Speaker, let me tell you what is it that we are going to do in this financial year, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have signed 4 contracts for roads. The Savannah Hole Road has started. The Paybush Gap to Monsito via Lager Road, the contract has been signed and work has started, Mr. Speaker. The Paybush Gap to Monsito via Plateau, Mr. Speaker, and I want to say I gave a commitment to a young individual who said to me that he will give me support if I could commit resurfacing that road. And I want to say today that I have delivered on that commitment, Mr. Speaker. We are going to resurface and improve the condition of the Paybush Gap to Monsito via Plateau. The Jiwa Road, Mr. Speaker, is going to be given some serious attention. And Mr. Speaker, in Debawa, Mr. Speaker, the road by the Debawa School going to Mr. Donald's place is going to be given some attention, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, but there are a number of other roads that we have to look at. Of course, from Lakwa to Gara, we have to look at that road, Mr. Speaker, and also from Hill 20 to Chasse. But, Mr. Speaker, what's the pressure I'm getting right now as Minister for Agriculture with the roads, or what you call our farm roads, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, I remember writing to every parliamentarian, and that's how we operate on this side. We involve every parliamentarian. In fact, I can say for the Ministry of Agriculture, Minister of Agriculture involved every parliamentarian. And we had an estimate of about $100 million EC dollars to do roads throughout the length and breadth of St. Lucia. And the Prime Minister had committed 50 million from a loan from, of course, the government and people of Taiwan. But Mr. Speaker, since the COVID, the Prime Minister has since decided that we have to repurpose the loan. And unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the agricultural feeder route program cannot continue as it was planned. Mr. Speaker, of course, I can say that we approach Caribbean Development Bank, and of course, the members in the opposite, through the Ministry of Infrastructure, under the leadership of the member from Beaufort North, had some engagement with Caribbean Development Bank as it pertains to agricultural feeder roads, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, when we did an assessment of these roads, they are not agricultural feeder roads. The majority of them are not agricultural feeder roads, Mr. Speaker. They are all called community roads. And, Mr. Speaker, you know what happened? 80% of them, 80% of the roads identified were in Beaufort North. Mr. Speaker, I want to tell my farmers that I'm looking for resources to do some of the agricultural feeder roads. For example, the Chassin to Maki, the Canal, Lanfon, Fort Carco, Jiwa to Gama to Bogi, Bogis to Maki Estate, Kakoli, Debara to Louvet. We're looking for resources to do some of these routes. I want to say today, Mr. Speaker, we're not in a position to do all this financial year, but of course we will start some, Mr. Speaker. That's how we operate. We're going to start some so people can see something is happening in the constituency, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I have the fullest confidence that the programs that I have articulated will be accomplished, and with the help of the Minister of Finance, and of course, with the help of my cabinet colleagues and the technical people, we will be able to do as much as is possible, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I heard a lot about non-performance on this side. And, of course, legacy. Where is your legacy? Asking my Prime Minister, where is his legacy? Mr. Speaker, the legacy of the United Workers' Party is well written and well reported in the Economic and Social Review. Unemployment going down, growth in the economy, Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that we're meeting all these challenges. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask those on the opposite. What is the legacy of the St. Lucia Labour Party? I want to ask those on the opposite, Mr. Speaker. Let him sit. I want him to sit. I want to ask those on the opposite, Mr. Speaker. What is the legacy of the member from Castries East? According to him, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister in waiting. Mr. Speaker, if you have to do an assessment, an evaluation, Mr. Speaker, I come into my legacy and your legacy now. If you have to do an assessment, Mr. Speaker, of the two individuals, the member from Beaufort, from Miku South, Mr. Speaker, the member from Miku South, Mr. Speaker, and now our Prime Minister and our leader, and the member from Castries East, Mr. Speaker, leader of the opposition, and he was Deputy Prime Minister for how many years? Let's do an analysis, Mr. Speaker. Let's do an analysis, Mr. Speaker. Of course, Mr. Speaker, you heard the member from Castries East came here and said, look, you're trying to make me lose the election by closing a toilet. You're trying to make me lose the election by closing a park. That's your legacy? After 15 years in government, I'm not even talking about 25 years representing the people of Castries East. After 15 years in government, that is your legacy? You know? Oh, when the people have running belly, they have nowhere to go, running belly. That's your legacy, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, if you compare the legacy of the member from Miku South when he was Minister of Tourism, Mr. Speaker. Let's compare the two of them. I can compare the member for Constituency East as Minister of Tourism, and I can compare the member from Miku South as Minister of Tourism. Let's compare the two of them, Mr. Speaker. Let's compare the two of them. You know what happened, Mr. Speaker? After a year and a half, they fired him as Minister of Tourism. You know? After he was there for a year or 2 years, they fired him as Minister of Tourism because the Prime Minister at the time had no confidence in him as Minister of Tourism. So what's the legacy talking about? What legacy talking about? What's the legacy, Mr. Speaker? You know? Mr. Speaker, I want to say that there was charcoal, tax of charcoal, and a means of raising revenue. That's revenue, $10 for some is revenue. I'm ashamed of you, member for Miku, from Beaufort North. I'm ashamed of you. You know, I'm ashamed of you, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, let me move on to, because I know time is, and I need to speak about my ministry, Mr. Speaker. Are the farmers better off today? Are the farmers better off today, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, the question is simply yes.
Honourable members.
The answer to that question, Mr. Speaker, is simply yes. The farmers of St. Lucia are better today. The farmers of St. Lucia are always better when the United Workers' Party is governing this country. You know, I heard he went, in fact, Mr. Speaker, he started well, you know, giving a history lesson. What George Charles did, what this one did, what that one did. I wanted him to tell us what you have done. What you have done. Don't come and give us a history lesson. I want you to tell us what you have done when you were Minister of Agriculture between the years 2011 and 2016. What you have done, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Here's his legacy, Mr. Speaker. Here's his legacy. He came from a well laid out FAD program, a fish aggregate device program. He failed it, Mr. Speaker. He gets the meat processing facility, Mr. Speaker, 90% complete. The abattoir I speak about, he got it 90% complete. In fact, Mr. Speaker, in the 2012 budget estimate, they are factoring it to cost $13 million. You know what it went to, Mr. Speaker? From 2012 to 2016, $22 million. That is your legacy. And it still wasn't open. It still wasn't open, Mr. Speaker. That's your legacy. You formed a youth in agricultural program. You formed a youth in agricultural program with $3.5 million grant funding from Caribbean Development Fund. Where the money gone? Where the program? We have to come in now and see what we can do to finish that program. Thanks to my member from Constituency, using the lands that was Constituency Central, sorry, using the lands that was identified for the youth in agricultural program.
On a point of order, Mr. Speaker. On a point of order, Mr. Speaker. The member is misleading the House. The member said that they left a youth in agriculture program where the money go, listen to that, serious allegations, where the money gone, where the program gone. The youth in agriculture program was, when he came into office, the youth in agriculture program was still there. When he says where the money gone, where the program gone, is he suggesting that the money went somewhere else? I want him to prove that, Mr. Speaker. Prove it. The youth in agriculture program was there. And I want the member for Babuno and the Minister for Agriculture to tell the House that there was no youth in agriculture program when he became minister. I want him to say so today. If he's correct, say so. Because he's misleading the House. Because I have the letters and the documents.
Honourable
so
member.
Say it.
What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say?
Honourable member.
You're misleading the House.
What does he want me to say? There's no youth in agriculture program, that's what you want me to say?
That's what you said.
So you formed a youth in agricultural program, Mr. Speaker, with $3.2 million grant funding.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, I will not let the member escape with this.
It's too important to the public servants who work hard on this program. The member for Babono said that when he came into office in 2016, when he left in 20, there was a youth in agriculture program, $3.5 million. And when he came, he asked where the money gone, where the program gone. I want the member to withdraw that because when he became minister, the youth in agriculture program was active. So he's misleading the House and misleading the country. I want the member to withdraw this statement because he's misleading the House. You said where the money gone? What are you trying to insinuate? Where the program gone? You are misleading the House. I will not allow it. And I will not stop until you do that.
Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I know you. I ask a question. I ask a question. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm continuing on youth in agriculture program. When you came in, Mr. Speaker, your legacy we're talking about now, because you're about legacy. Your legacy coming. I'll come to you by nothing just now. I'll come to you just now. Your legacy coming just now. When you came in, Mr. Speaker, you formed a program under the BAM of $60 million allocated to St. Lucia. When you sang it in 2013, it went down to $30 million. Why? You know why, Mr. Speaker? Because banana production went down on the head. So your allocation from 60...
Mr. Speaker, once again, the member is misleading the House. The changes in the amounts for the BAM, pressure? No. No, no, no. Your government is one of untruths. Mr. Speaker, the changes in the amounts for the banana accompanying measures were largely because of the changes in the value of the pound. And I wish Mr. Compton and these others who manage this program are listening to this minister. The changes are not because of reductions. The value of the pound decreased. Mr. Speaker, this minister is misleading the House. That's the same minister who praised. That's the same minister who praised me for the implementation of the BAM in the last session.
Honorable member.
So, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, so we are hearing that. Oh, sorry, Mr. Speaker.
I'm not sure if you choose your words deliberately. I'm not sure if you choose your word deliberately, or you say it in a manner to get reaction from the member opposite. But please do not in any way mislead the Honorable House.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not misleading the House, Mr. Speaker, I'm not misleading the House. Because he just confirmed, Mr. Speaker, that he got $60 million, but because the value of the pound went down, it went from 60 to 30. That's what he confirmed, Mr. Speaker. You know, Mr. Speaker, he said, so, Mr. Speaker, the question is, the value of the pound went down by 50%? The value of the pound went down by 50%? So, yes, I praise you, Mr. Speaker, and I mean, I give praise where praise is due. I praise you because, Mr. Speaker, part of the program was to have a lab. And it was my intention, and the intention of my ministry, to have the lab in Roseau. And he changed the location of the lab from Roseau to Union. And I think it was a very good decision, Mr. Speaker. He did. I praise him. But he was not the one who conceptualized the lab. The lab was part of the program. And he just agreed that, Mr. Speaker, because the value of the pound went down by 50%, that is why it moved from 60 million to 40 million. So the question is, did the value of the pound go down by 50%? Mr. Speaker, I continue, Mr. Speaker, legacy. Legacy, Mr. Speaker. He found 3 agro-processing facilities. What happened to them? 3. He found we started restructuring the Central Marketing Board. What happened to it? And I'm happy, Mr. Speaker, we took that decision to restructure the Central Marketing Board. Right now, we can boast that the St. Lucia Marketing Board is standing on its own. We can boast that, Mr. Speaker. The government will have to pump any money in the St. Lucia Marketing Board, Mr. Speaker. We can boast about that, Mr. Speaker. He found, Mr. Speaker, at the new facility,
Mr. Speaker, the member is misleading the House. You see, because I have the documents, Mr. Speaker. I want to prove. Okay, Mr. Speaker, he said that I found 3 agro-processing facilities. What happened to them? let me read what happened. Let me read. He's misleading the House by trying to indicate that those 3 agro-processing facilities, he doesn't know what happened to them, Mr. Speaker. That's misleading the House.
Are you confirming that there were 3 agro-processing plants?
In fact, Mr. Speaker, there were dilapidated agro-processing plants, and he said what happened to them, as if they disappeared.
Honorable Member, may I suggest that, I know time is a factor, but may I suggest that you take note of, I'm not going to tell you which one, but take note of standing order, and you will do what ought to be done. Honorable Minister, continue.
Mr. Speaker, if I can continue, Mr. Speaker, I hope you start up again. Mr. Speaker, we found a breeding program at Bosation with imported pigs, Mr. Speaker, at Bosation. What happened? Your legacy. Your legacy. I just asked a question. What happened? What happened? Mr. Speaker, are the farmers better off? Of course the farmers are better off, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the records, Mr. Speaker, of banana export on page 107, you're afraid to quote pages. In fact, last time he said, I will come back to you and I'll show you the figures and I'll tell you how badly you did. But he just came at Mr. Speaker and just throwing figures all over the place. Let's look at page 107. I'm guiding you to page 107. You know? I've told you so before. There are a lot of things you have to tell us. You're telling us. There are a lot of things you have to tell us. I've told you so before. You know? You know? Page 107, Mr. Speaker. Let him read page 107 and let us have a discussion on page 107 when he's ready, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as far as incentive, Mr. Speaker, let me give you records, Mr. Speaker. As farmers not better off, let me give you the figures, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in 2015, Mr. Speaker, our worst year in issuing FARs was better than your 4 years. In 2015, Mr. Speaker, we issued 13 FAR vehicles. Is not an indication, Mr. Speaker, that farmers are doing better off? In 2016, Mr. Speaker, it moved from 13 in 2015, Mr. Speaker. In 2016, it went to 29 farmers bought new vehicles, Mr. Speaker. 29. Moved from 2015, 13. In 2016, 29 farmers bought new vehicles, Mr. Speaker. In 2017, Mr. Speaker, FARs. In 2017, Mr. Speaker, 48 farmers bought new vehicles. Isn't that an indication, Mr. Speaker, that farmers are doing better? Under this government, Mr. Speaker, it moved from 13 in 2015, Mr. Speaker, to 40.
Honorable members.
To 48 in 2007. Mr. Speaker, it doesn't stop there, you know. It doesn't stop there, Mr. Speaker. In 2018, Mr. Speaker, it was 42 new vehicles. And in 2019, Mr. Speaker, we issued 62 farmers bought new vehicles. What is that saying, Mr. Speaker? What is that saying? It's not saying that the farmers are doing better and they're investing because they have the confidence under the leadership of this Prime Minister and this government, Mr. Speaker. That is an indication of the farmers are doing better, Mr. Speaker. That is what is happening, Mr. Speaker. So Mr. Speaker, when I'm hearing about legacy, you want to talk about legacy? You want to talk about legacy, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, oh, now you know the page. Mr. Speaker, let me speak about COVID. Let's speak about COVID, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, under COVID, we have gotten resources to assist our farmers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are looking at supporting farmers in 8 major areas. 8 major areas, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member, you have 5 minutes in which to complete.
Mr. Speaker, I got on all this interruption. Mr. Speaker, we are going to support farmers under fisheries and aquaculture. We're going to support farmers under livestock, Mr. Speaker. We're going to support farmers under COVID, post-COVID, Mr. Speaker, under crop production, under apiculture, under banana production, under land preparation, and of course, market access, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at a glance, under fisheries and aquaculture, we have allocated over $600,000 to support our farmers. Under the livestock program, we have allocated over $900,000, and I'm using wrong figures, Mr. Speaker, to support our farmers. Under crop production, Mr. Speaker, we have $1.355 million, Mr. Speaker, to support our farmers. Under land preparation, Mr. Speaker, we have $1.08 million to support our farmers. Under agro-processing, Mr. Speaker, because we are taking care of our agro-processors. We think they're doing a very good job, and I met with them. They have formed themselves into an organization, Mr. Speaker, and we have given a commitment to help them. We have allocated $80,000 to support our agro-processing persons, Mr. Speaker. Under banana production, $2.8 million, and the market access, $500,000. So a total of $7.235 million, Mr. Speaker, has been received to support our farmers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me go quickly on the bananas, because they seem to be interested in bananas, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have come to this honorable house. I've come to this honorable house, Mr. Speaker, and in June 2019, I made a statement. I did not reading, or did not listening, or they plan to forget. I spoke about the banana sector in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. I said what we have been able to accomplish, Mr. Speaker. He spoke about George Charles, Mr. Speaker, and he come in this honorable house and boast about George Charles, during the time of George Charles records. A historian. Speak about the current, Mr. Speaker. Speak about what you have accomplished. Let me tell you what we have accomplished under the leadership of Ms. Honor Alan Charles with banners, Mr. Speaker. We have moved, Mr. Speaker. I spoke about it. We moved when we came in. When we came in, Mr. Speaker, we moved from 1,100 acres to 2,600 acres, Mr. Speaker. That's our record. That's my legacy. From 1,100 acres to 2,600 acres, Mr. Speaker. We moved from 230 farmers, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members. Honorable member.
What, that letter have you going, boy?
Continue, good sir.
That letter have you going? Mr. Speaker, we moved from 230 farmers to 643 farmers, Mr. Speaker. That is our legacy. That is our legacy, Mr. Speaker. We moved from 195 farmers exporting bananas to France to the UK. We moved from 195 farmers.
Honorable members.
I'm saying it again.
Honorable members. Honorable members.
I'll say it again.
Honorable members.
Be quiet. I'm saying it again. All right? We moved from 195 farmers selling bananas to the UK market, Mr. Speaker, to 291 farmers to the UK market, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me speak. Mr. Speaker, in June, Mr. Speaker, 2019, I gave a report about the French market. And I'm going to quote what I said in June 2019, Mr. Speaker. I said it. And it's a document of the House. I said it. And I'm going to quote, Mr. Speaker. French market. UGBAN continued to express interest in purchasing St. Lucia bananas and agreed on a trial shipment of 1,000 boxes for the first 3 weeks, Mr. Speaker. That's what I reported in the House. UGBAN agreed on a trial shipment, the first 3 weeks of 1,000 boxes. And they said if the trial shipment proves successful, they will commit to 3,000 boxes weekly, Mr. Speaker. I continue to say, Mr. Speaker, that these boxes, these 1,000 boxes, were supposed to contain 22 clusters, 6 fingers in bags. All right? So, Simon, 22 clusters in a box, and each cluster will have 6 fingers. That's what the market required, Mr. Speaker. We were able, I'm going to quote Mr. Speaker, we were able to get the 1,000 boxes, but we were not able to get all the 1,000 boxes with 22 clusters in a box, Mr. Speaker. So what was told to us was that by our company in the UK, that's Windfresh, puts all the 18 clusters one side, the 20 clusters one side, and the 22 clusters in the box, and put it in the container, Mr. Speaker. When the shipment left, and because I'm hoping that you understand that, when the banners leave St. Lucia, it takes 5 weeks to reach the UK. Our counterpart in the UK contacted the French company, and they said they were not interested because what they wanted from us is 22 clusters. So when you talk about, I have reported that in this honorable house. So when you make a big fuss about what the banners, we have reported that in this honorable house. You know. So, Mr. Speaker, I also said that we are going to continue negotiating with the company and see what other options are there. And we are still optimistic, Mr. Speaker, that we are going to be able to accomplish that objective, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we are confident that we'll be able to accomplish this, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have so much to say. I have 7 crops, I have Wasco, I have the... But anyway, Mr. Speaker, I'll do it at some other time. Mr. Speaker, in closing, because I don't have time, I want to express on behalf of the farmers of St. Lucia, on behalf of the farmers of St. Lucia, especially our banana farmers, Mr. Speaker. In fact, I have not heard them ask where the farmers' money, because they are aware. They are aware, Mr. Speaker, we have paid the farmers. Why we don't have an obligation to do it? But this Minister of Finance, Mr. Speaker, understanding the plight of our farmers, took the initiative to say, look, Mr. Minister, we're going to pay the banana farmers the outstanding money, and we have paid them $2.4 million. Mr. Speaker. We have paid the banana farmers $2.4 million because it is not our responsibility. You know why, Mr. Speaker? The banana industry is privatized. Kim ki privatized? Yo. Coupe par coupe, yo ki privatized, Mr. Speaker. But despite the fact, this Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, using his judgment, understanding, appreciating, Mr. Speaker, the negative impact in the delay of the payments from Windfresh, have advanced our banana farmers $2.4 million payments, Mr. Speaker. The banana farmers are happy. And of course, Mr. Speaker, we have mandated the board. The board has mandated the management to be current in the payments of our banana farmers, Mr. Speaker. Just, Mr. Speaker, so moving forward, Windfresh is under restructuring. Windfresh is in administration, Mr. Speaker, and we know that the new management will do what's necessary to make sure that we can continue to market our bananas in the UK market, along with the plans that this Honourable Cabinet has, Mr. Speaker, and of course the Prime Minister in promoting our bananas in the UK and in France, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we need to restructure Windfresh. And we are restructuring Windfresh, Mr. Speaker. We are restructuring Windfresh. And from a shareholder point of view, we have felt the need to look at the management structure and to change the management structure, Mr. Speaker. And that's what we are doing, because we believe there's a need for it. So I have the fullest confidence in that decision, Mr. Speaker. Will bear fruit, and of course we'll see the continuation of the farmers being satisfied as far as being able to market the bananas. Mr. Speaker, in closing, I want to express to the Honourable Prime Minister, we look at the legacies between the two, Mr. Speaker. We're not come here and speak, cannot come here and speak about what he has accomplished after 15 years in government and 10 years in opposition in his constituency. And if you cannot come here, Mr. Speaker, and speak to what you have done to transform your constituents, you think that people of Senegal have confidence in you to be Prime Minister? No record in Castries East. Nothing has been accomplished in Castries East. Nothing substantial has been accomplished in Castries East. But the time of reckoning is coming, Mr. Speaker. The time of reckoning is coming. I want to compliment the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, for giving support to agriculture. His heart and soul is in agriculture. I worked with him when he was Minister of Tourism, and I can say here, and I've said it before, he demonstrated to me as Minister of Tourism, he understood, Mr. Speaker, the impact of agriculture and tourism. When we talk about, forget about tourism and concentrate on agriculture, we cannot, in this country, Mr. Speaker, forget about tourism. Tourism is important, very important, for the development of agriculture in this country, Mr. Speaker. And we have to give tourism what it is. It's not tourism or agriculture, it's tourism and agriculture, Mr. Speaker. That's what it is. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to compliment and express my appreciation to all my cabinet colleagues, Mr. Speaker. And of course, time will not permit, all my leaders in the Ministry of Agriculture, in the Department of Agriculture, Fisheries, Cooperative, Forestry. Mr. Speaker, I want to express my appreciation to them. And of course, we have work to do. We shall continue the journey, Mr. Speaker, and I'm sure that the farmers out there are feeling better off. When you look at the records are showing that we are delivering. With the limited resources that we are getting, we are delivering. Of course, we want more, but we understand that we can't get all what we want. So despite that we can't get all what we want, we are still pushing, and I can say that I have a team working with, under the leadership of Honorable Alan Shasley, Mr. Speaker, giving the support to this ministry, and I am sure this financial year will be able to accomplish much more and impact the rural communities of St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much for your patience, and I thank you very much, members of the Speaker.
Member for Castries Central.
Speaker, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to add my voice to those of my colleagues who've gone before me to support the appropriation bill as presented by the Honorable Prime Minister. And Mr. Speaker, I am still in a COVID mood, very much a quiet COVID mood. And Mr. Speaker, I've had quite a number of persons say to me, but you've been very quiet recently. And sometimes people misinterpret someone's silence to mean that they have nothing to say, or they don't know what to say. But those who would know better, Mr. Speaker, would know that sometimes silence can mean that you have so much to say, you don't know where to start. And it can also mean that you are silent on the outside, but very busy listening to that inner voice on the inside. So there's always dialogue happening. There's always things happening. And Mr. Speaker, I often look at the ocean and I think that we see the sea, we see it vast, we see the waves rolling, and we think that's the ocean. But the ocean is what really is beneath it. The things that we don't see. The ocean really is the life at the very depths of the ocean. That's what the ocean is. If we want to understand the ocean, we have to understand life beneath the ocean. And so, Mr. Speaker, how much can I really say in 1 hour? There's so much to say. There's so much to report. So, Mr. Speaker, standing on my feet, sometimes I'm not sure where to start until I get to my feet. But I want to just reflect a little bit on a conversation I had with the Honorable Prime Minister yesterday, very, very briefly. I've heard a lot said about the Prime Minister, a lot of attacks on the Prime Minister, unjustified, unwarranted, untrue. And Mr. Speaker, my approach, certainly in my own political life, Mr. Speaker, I don't read about myself on Facebook. I don't read about myself anywhere. Because I think I know myself better than others do. And there's one person who certainly knows me more than I can ever know myself, the person who created me. So if I want to know about me, I self-examine or I reflect and ask God to reveal to me about myself. So my policy is not to go responding to what people say about me, or I never even really advocate responding, because politics is such that, Mr. Speaker, somebody tells a lie, you go and untell it. As fast as you untell it, somebody tells another lie. People who are bent on misinformation, mischief, will create mischief much faster than you can ever undo what they did. So my policy is always just to keep on working, just to keep on doing the work. But, Mr. Speaker, there are sometimes some things need to be addressed because they go too far and they can harm not just the individual targeted, but they can harm an entire nation. So there are some falsehoods, there are some inaccuracies sometimes that need to be corrected for the common good. I will come back to that, Mr. Speaker. I was talking about the conversation that the Prime Minister and I had very briefly, not even 5 minutes yesterday. I said to the Prime Minister, you know, PM, we did our first ultrasound at our family center yesterday. That's our crisis pregnancy center, by the way. We performed our first ultrasound on our client yesterday at the family center. The Prime Minister right away said, wow, yes, when are you inviting me? I would like to come to see. Yes. I have never asked the Prime Minister. We've never discussed fully what the Prime Minister's views on abortion are. We've not discussed that. But that's the Prime Minister who understands women in crisis need help. Women in crisis need support. Women in crisis need services. And the Prime Minister is open to providing that. This is the Prime Minister we have. And as I reflected on that, I reflected it was 16 years ago. My son is going to be 17 in September. I was 8.5 months pregnant. This is when I was unceremoniously fired without being given an opportunity to express my views. This is a Prime Minister who perhaps does not necessarily hold the same position that I hold, but there is common ground where we can work together for the benefit of the vulnerable, and that's enough for him. How can we work together? That's it. I was not even given that opportunity. This is what happened. This is what happened in an administration where I served. As I said, my son turned 17 in September. And it has taken us almost 17 years to offer our first ultrasound and really begin to provide the kind of services that we're providing. So, Prime Minister, we'd be so happy to invite you and the Cabinet to see what we're doing. And by the way, we have not asked government for a penny. This is being done entirely by the work of volunteers. So, Mr. Speaker, I hear that they talk about a Prime Minister who doesn't care, who is, I don't even want to remember the words, because honestly, I forget them. As soon as they're said, I forget them. Put them out of my head. I want to base my thoughts and actions on truth, not on falsehood. So, Mr. Speaker, I've heard the rhetoric, and sometimes I need to ask myself, how come it is this Prime Minister who has made available to the New Beginnings Transit Home in Beaufort the sum of $242,400 per year? Whenever have we had at any point? I'm aware that the transit home has an allocation of $500,000. But in Beaufort, how long has this home been around in Beaufort? What did the previous Member of Parliament, when he was Minister of Finance and Prime Minister, do for the children of Beaufort who needed proper housing? What did he do? It has taken this Prime Minister to do it, Mr. Speaker. This is what we are talking about. The compassion, the openness to another viewpoint and discussing. Mr. Speaker, our government has done really well with managing COVID. And as I've said in this Honorable House before, I think the whole of St. Lucia needs to take credit, led by the government, of course, in particular the Chief Medical Officer, the Minister of Health and their team. The opposition collaborated, but led by the government of St. Lucia. But even then, Mr. Speaker, we are not a government that boasts. We are not a government that boasts. We recognize, Mr. Speaker, that we work, but it is God who accomplishes everything. It is God who accomplishes everything. This is why, Mr. Speaker, when we came back in, this Prime Minister reinstated prayers in Cabinet.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, Mr. Speaker, this prayers in Cabinet thing has come along for certain. That is not true, Mr. Speaker. There was never any stopping of prayers in Cabinet. This has been said. That is not true. I was in the Cabinet. There was never any stopping of prayers in Cabinet. We never stopped any prayers in Cabinet.
Is that a point of order, Mr. Speaker? What is the member asking? What does the member wish me to do? I'll oblige today. What is it that the honourable member wishes me to do? What does he want me to do? Mr. Speaker, the honourable leader of the opposition is suggesting that I am not speaking the truth. So I am duty-bound to explain myself. I am duty-bound to say what happened and how it happened. Mr. Speaker, I became a Minister of Government, as you know, in 1997, under the Labour Party. When we started Cabinet, there were no prayers. When we first came into Cabinet, as far as I recall, there were no prayers. We never started the Cabinet with prayers. Mr. Speaker, at a certain point, and you can check the records, once the agenda is there and it says everything that happened, it should be in there. Prime Minister Kenny Anthony was on leave and Mario Michel acted as Prime Minister. At that point, Veronica Gard acted as Cabinet Secretary or clerk, because the substantive was also on leave. And Miss Veronica Speaker God, before we started cabinet, said, ministers, by the way, I think we should pray before cabinet. Cabinet was chaired by acting Prime Minister Mario Michel. He agreed, and we all prayed before cabinet. That was the very first cabinet meeting that we prayed before. The subsequent week, again chaired by Minister Michel, and Ms. God invited us to pray. We stood up and we prayed. Twice we prayed in cabinet on 2 successive occasions. The third time, it may be the third, it may be the fourth, my memory doesn't serve me on this one, but when Prime Minister Kenny Anthony came back to assume his role as Prime Minister and Minister Michel was no longer acting, we all naturally just stood up because we had prayed before and we naturally were expecting to pray again. We stood up to pray. I made a sign of the cross. We bowed our heads, and Miss God said, by the way, PM, while you were out, we started the practice of praying in cabinet. He says, no, not in this cabinet. Nobody's going to pray in this cabinet. And we all just sat down. Go and check the records. Go, yes, I'm telling you, go. You said that I was lying. You said that I was lying.
Honorable members. We're not going back and forth on board present cabinet. No.
Mr. Speaker, I rest my... Mr. Speaker, I'll move on. Mr. Speaker, I will move on. I rest my case.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, I will move on. I rest my case. Mr. Speaker, the point I want to make is... Mr. Speaker, the point I want to make is that the member on the other side, I believe it was the member for Beaufort North, says that the Prime Minister comes on TV and he prays and he cries and he does whatever it is, as though it's a show. It's not a show. This Prime Minister prays in public and in private. That's the point I want to make. It is not about a show. This Prime Minister stands up behind closed doors and leads his cabinet in prayer. So I saw the Prime Minister pray with Mother, can you remind me of her name on TV, Mother Collymore, and I joined in the prayer. I'm used to the Prime Minister leading prayers. But we had a Prime Minister before who not only refused to pray himself, but stopped others from doing it. He precluded others who wanted to pray. Further, I had already made the sign of the cross. He intercepted and stopped the prayer that had already commenced as far as I am concerned. That's what happened. And I recall, for months afterwards, for weeks afterwards, there were ministers who were saying, but Cyril, why did the Prime Minister do that? Why did the Prime quietly, not one person, not even myself, said anything? I was so shocked at what had happened. I couldn't believe what I saw. Mr. Speaker, God is not mocked. God is not mocked. God is not mocked. So, Mr. Speaker, the people of St. Lucia, we saw the people of Castries South who come to our family center with the same care and gentleness that we serve everybody. What the member for Castries South should be doing is commending me, commending the volunteers. The family center is staffed only by volunteers. Not one person in that center is paid to the work that they do. Volunteers providing a service to the people of St. Lucia, including the women of Castries South. who are facing crisis pregnancies, what you should be doing, if you're looking for the vote of the women, if he's looking for the vote of the women from Castries South, you should be applauding these efforts, because your constituents will benefit and are benefiting from it. The Minister for Health will deal with him. The Minister for Health will deal with you in the next election. Mr. Speaker, I would like to continue my presentation in silence. I have a right, as per the standing orders, to be heard in silence.
Honorable members, the member ought to be heard in silence.
Mr. Speaker, again, I want to commend the Minister for Health. In fact, I probably should have said what I needed to say about her support before. The Minister of Health perhaps doesn't share my views. The Minister for Health perhaps does not believe as firmly as I believe. I don't know. We have not discussed it. She perhaps doesn't believe as firmly as I believe in the sanctity of human life. But the Minister for Health was the one who provided the ultrasonographer once a week at the family center so we could do these ultrasounds free of charge. She's the one. She will be, don't worry, she will be the member of Parliament for Castries South at the next elections. God is not mocked. God is not mocked. Because she has a heart of compassion. She recognizes that women need help and support. And that's all we're asking. Mr. Speaker, on this side, we don't agree on everything. And in fact, this is the great beauty. This is how we make the best decisions. Because there are diverging views. But there is respect. We listen to what others have to say. And there is a common ground where our people can benefit. We are prepared to work together. And so that is what it is all about. So, Mr. Speaker, the member for Castries South is totally misplaced and misguided, because guess what? The first thing we have to do to create a culture of life is to provide the support and the alternatives for women so that abortion becomes unthinkable, and we will get there. Mr. Speaker, I do want to give an account, and I recognize it can only be a summary account of what we have been doing in Castries Central over the past year, and in fact, over the past 4 years. And I say summary account because we have been doing a lot in Castries Central. And I say we because it is a team effort. You would know, Mr. Speaker, that when I was elected into office, one of the first things I said, I believe in the first victory speech that I gave, was that I said, I wanted to know each one of my constituents by name. That was the goal I set for myself. And that was a very ambitious goal. I mean, we all know when we're getting older, we can't remember names even of people who went to school with us. We're staring at someone, we know them so well, and the name's not coming. So I think it was very bold of me to make that pronouncement. And perhaps if I'm held to it by the letter, I might get a B and not a A. And maybe on some days, I might even get a C. But the point I wanted to make, Mr. Speaker, is that I would address the needs of my constituents in such a way that I would take particular care and pay particular attention to the needs of each person. And that it would not be a one-size-fits-all approach. That's the point I wanted to make. So, Mr. Speaker, we set to work very quickly in our constituency office. once persons came in to really spend the time to understand what their needs, what their challenges were, and develop programs to meet those needs. And to date, we have developed at least 16 programs in Synergy. And that caters for the many, many diverse issues and challenges that our constituents face. Someone might come in with an unemployment problem, but they have a housing problem, they have an addiction problem, they have a problem of domestic abuse in their home. How do you respond to all of that? And so, Mr. Speaker, I will not be going through all the programs at all. What we intend to do is to produce a booklet, a pamphlet, a flyer very soon so that persons can be updated on what we have been doing. I want to talk a little bit about the Urban Grow Farm, because we will be spending quite a bit of time over the next 3 months on the farm down in Roseau to make sure that we can grow and harvest some quick crops so that we can ensure that we can supply our constituents with the food that they need, that we can sell some on the market, and of course be in a position to provide relief packages to our constituents. Mr. Speaker, we have been cultivating 2.1 acres of farmlands at Roseau. I don't know if you ever take a trip down there, but if you go, you will see that the area is fenced. You will see that a farm shed has been built. You will see that the water and infrastructure has been put. If you care enough, Mr. Speaker, you can drive in. You can see where we have even built a water dam. All these things that we have been doing to make sure that we can provide adequate water to the farm so that we can grow a bountiful harvest. So, Mr. Speaker, it's all the young men and young women from Castries Central who have been doing this work from start to finish. We have created employment for 6 persons on the farm full-time ever since January, and it is our intention to employ more persons, probably part-time, as we start growing and planting. This is because it is no accident that the unemployment figures are coming down. Castries Central is contributing to decreasing the unemployment figures we are seeing, both in terms of general unemployment and employment among the youth. Our farmers have been certified, Mr. Speaker, and they also receive personal development coaching sessions. I want to thank the following agencies who have been assisting us: the Pan-American Development Foundation, the Taiwanese government, LUCELEC supported our efforts, WASCO supported our efforts, the Ministry of Infrastructure supported our efforts. Mr. Speaker, I have really to thank the Minister of Agriculture, without whom we would not have had access to the lands at all. I want to say it's very clear that this Minister of Agriculture is not just serious about agriculture, but is serious about youth in agriculture. I want to thank the Water Resources Management Division of the Ministry of Agriculture. I would like to thank the Ministry of Planning. I would like to thank SSDF. I would like to thank the Minister for Economic Empowerment. And of course, I would like to thank the Prime Minister. We had a blessing on the farm some time ago, and the Prime Minister was able to be present with us. I want to say thank you to our farmers for journeying with us and making it obvious, making it clear that the people of Castries Central, the young men and young women of Castries Central, are serious about working. In our Synergy program in total, Mr. Speaker, we have had a total number of 870 persons register for our program. 870 persons have registered for our Synergy program in Castries Central. Of these persons, 607 are from Castries Central, and the rest are from other parts of St. Lucia. Although our program is geared specifically at Castries Central, and we are targeting primarily the people of Castries Central as beneficiaries, we have not turned anybody who has come for our help away. We are now moving, Mr. Speaker, as we're starting our planting on our farm. We are now moving to do our Urban Grow Community Outreach Program, where we are encouraging all households in Castries Central to grow. Grow your food, do your gardening, however you can do it. In a pot, in a tire, on your windowsill, however you can do it. And Mr. Speaker, the consultant who works with our Urban Grow will provide support to these families who want to grow their own food at home. We have a tracking card. When we donate the seeds, when we give the seeds to you, and we give you the training on how you can grow them, we encourage you to track so we know what you are doing, so we're helping you along the way. One of the things we will do also on our farm, a portion of the farm has been dedicated to a rent-a-row program. Those persons in our constituency who want to come down just to rent a row to do recreational farming can come down to do that. So, Mr. Speaker, these are all these things that we are doing, and I want to say all these are original ideas, homegrown. Even all the artwork you see are from the Synergy staff themselves. So, Mr. Speaker, we want to thank God that we've been able to start a successful farming program in Castries Central. I have to say, Mr. Speaker, that of our 16 Synergy programs, this is the one that has been most sought after, most popular. In fact, a total number of 337 persons have registered for Urban Grow. So we have not had to cajole, coerce persons in Castries Central to do farming. We have not. And almost as many women as men said that they were interested. So, Mr. Speaker, I would encourage you, if you're taking a drive down there and you inform me, I'll invite you for lunch on the farm. We have a farm shed. We have a farm shed where we do training, and you're invited as well, Member of Parliament for Dennery North, you're invited as well. So, Mr. Speaker, we intend to employ one additional person full-time this year who will be doing farm hospitality. She will ensure the farmers are fed a good meal. She will ensure that our kitchen garden on the farm is kept nicely, and of course that the farm premises and surroundings are kept very well. So, Mr. Speaker, you can have a hot meal on the farm if you like, if you agree to do a little bit of gardening with us as well. So there it is for Urban Grow. Mr. Speaker, I want to speak a little bit about some of the other work that we have been doing. We have a Synergy Gold program. And again, as I said, I will highlight just some of our efforts. Synergy Gold really is to highlight our appreciation for our senior citizens. I want to commend the government on continuing the home care program. And I want to commend the home caregivers in my constituency who've been doing an excellent job, sometimes under very trying circumstances. You go to the home of an elderly person, you go to assist the person with their physical needs, with their personal needs, whether it be bathing or clothing or providing medication or grooming. And you go there and sometimes the person has nothing to eat. How do you pretend you didn't see that? You go into the home of the older person and you realize that it needs to be cleaned. Yet still you went in to provide personal care. How do you pretend you didn't see that? You went to the home of the older person and you realize this person really needs to get his or her medication. And you've already given them your last penny. How do you pretend you didn't see that? Mr. Speaker, so Synergy Gold in Central Castries is supporting and augmenting the efforts of the caregivers. Because there are, in as much as we've done so much as we can give, there are some needs that are so urgent that can't wait. So that's what Synergy Gold is. If there is an additional need, whether it be Pampers, we try to provide that. Whether it be grocery items, we provide vouchers to support that. And our Joy Homemakers program works very closely with Synergy Gold. Joy Homemakers is the program we have established to develop a hospitality model for the home sector. You know, we do a lot of hospitality training in St. Lucia, but it's always geared towards the hotels. But homes need very good helpers as well, and we need to train people for that, and we have been doing that. We have completed training of 4 trainers who are now training other persons. And the New Zealand government gave us the support to achieve that. I thank the Prime Minister. He was the one who made the initial contact for us. And so our Joy Homemakers will go in fact alongside our Synergy Gold people in case the house needs to be structured and organized so that the home caregiver can concentrate on the care she's come to give the person personally. So that's Joy Homemakers. I've told you a little bit about that. I'm going back to Synergy Gold. What we have done, Mr. Speaker, with Synergy Gold as well, we have trained 2 qualified massage therapists, persons who are already well experienced in massage therapy, who already had many years of experience, whether working in hotels or private spas. We sent them to the Caribbean School of Holistic Therapies. We sent them to do a course on massage for the elderly and critically ill. Mr. Speaker, we call this program Synergy Gold, not by accident. We really, really, really believe that our senior citizens are worth the gold. And in fact, the doctor who works closely with our Synergy Gold said we should aim for Synergy Platinum. And I believe that. So probably Synergy Gold one day will be changed to Synergy Platinum because our senior citizens deserve the best. So these massage therapists who are qualified in giving massages for the elderly and critically ill, Mr. Speaker, I have to say, unfortunately, they were ready to go. We had done the assessments. We had looked at a list of elderly persons. We had called the doctor in, done an assessment of the first 2 that we would have begun the program with as a pilot, but then COVID came. And of course, we were not allowed anymore to go into the homes of the elderly. So we've done this training. We have 2 certified massage therapists on our Synergy staff. That's another 2 jobs that we created. And hopefully, as soon as we are able to go back in, we will do that. So that's just some of the things we are doing for our senior citizens, Mr. Speaker. I want to speak a little bit about Synergy Housing. We have been able to assist in the repair of homes. You will recall also that we had 2 fires last year, both in Rose Hill and Wilton's Yard. And Mr. Speaker, I was brought up in a home where you were not encouraged to say anything that sounded like you were bragging. In fact, one of the terms which was used very often in my home as a child growing up by way of admonition was braggart. And when my mom called you a braggart, you had to be quiet for the rest of the day. We were not allowed ever to say we did this or we did that to beat our chest. My parents, my mother and my father didn't tolerate that for 1 minute. And maybe some members of the Honorable House here can identify with me. That's how we were brought up long ago. I mean, my mom called us a braggart for no reason whatsoever. And because we were brought up like that, my older brothers and sisters would put you straight very quickly if you started to brag. This because so I am always very reluctant to say, this is what I've done or this is what I've done. Well, certainly I know I haven't done anything on my own because it's a team of us who work together to bring these programs here. And it is the constituents who allow us to journey with them that cause these programs to come into fruition. But I want to say that we very much assisted the fire victims at Rose Hill. We were able to, through the assistance of the Taiwanese government, provide them with cash support We were able to provide counseling for them, and we assisted them with materials to build their homes. At least 7 of those fire victims. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, we assisted and facilitated the building of 2 homes in Wilton's Yard when the fire struck. And in addition to that, we have been able to build an additional home for a gentleman who is now very ill and in fact now confined to his home on oxygen. All these things we have done, but we have not gone out and said. Because personally, I think, Mr. Speaker, after someone has gone through a fire, it is such a horrifying experience that to have them parading on the TV to show you did this and did that, I really think, Mr. Speaker, it speaks of insensitivity. So what we have done to assist, particularly our fire victims in Castle Central, we've been very quiet about it. And the people whom we have assisted know that we've done it with our whole heart. So, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to say that. But what is coming, Mr. Speaker, in terms of housing, I think will be the project closest to my heart, or the program closest to my heart. Every program we develop in Castries, Central, and Synergy, I say, oh, this one is the dearest to my heart. But I think this one will be the dearest to my heart. It's called First House, Mr. Speaker. And it's still a concept. But I've already spoken to the Minister of Housing, to the Prime Minister. We have begun to source external funding for it. We have identified a location. I've spoken to a certain member of Parliament who borders my constituency, and he has assured me of his support. In all of what we do with our constituents, Mr. Speaker, it has become very, very clear to me that it starts with housing. It starts with housing. And that will be my motto, my logo, my tagline for the upcoming elections, Mr. Speaker. It starts with housing. Housing is important. I personally don't think, Mr. Speaker, we have ever had a low-cost housing program in this country, because we have had so many so-called low-cost housing programs that are so far out of the reach of many, many people. And when we were going to school, we were taught there are 3 basic needs: clothing, housing, food, clothing, and shelter. That's how we were taught. Food, clothing, and shelter. And people assume you'll eat. If you're not, even if you don't eat a nutritious meal, you have food, although people should have nutritious meals. $5 certainly can't block a hole. Nutritious meals need to be provided, and we keep doing that. We support, certainly in Castries Central, in our Synergy Support Program. That's another one of our programs, by the way, Synergy Support. We provide food vouchers, we provide support with prescriptions, we provide support with lab tests, we provide support with doctor's visits, we provide bereavement support, and all these things are not a handout, but a hand up. Because everyone who will qualify for support in our program has to be part of some of our other programs. In other words, you have to register to improve yourself. You have to register to take on some form of training. You have to register to be part of our personal development for you to qualify for support. So we're not just giving a handout, we're giving a hand up. But going back to the housing, Mr. Speaker, there is a great housing need. In fact, the project officer in my constituency sent me a report of more than 35 houses, which he has visited, assessed, and deemed as urgent and critical for intervention before the hurricane season, which, by the way, is already upon us. You'd be surprised the conditions under which people live, even in Castries Central. But we need to start somewhere, and in addition to the support we give sometimes in a dire situation, even for rent, if there's a domestic violence situation and the person needs to get out, we are, in the coming financial year, providing that we are successful with the proposals we've sent out, hoping to establish a housing program for young, vulnerable, single mothers. And it's called First House, Mr. Speaker, and the idea is to provide structured living for persons who qualify based on the criteria, so that we can begin to support very, very critical cases where young mothers just need adequate housing to have a safe and healthy environment to bring their children up and so that they can get out of poverty. Mr. Speaker, this is through our Synergy program. Again, the main beneficiaries targeted are persons from Castries Central, but we have never refused anyone who has walked through our doors who really needs help. I must remind honorable members, this is a pilot project in Castries Central, and we have developed the pilot broad, and we certainly do believe that by the time we assess and evaluate, of course we'll find things that are good, we'll find things that are very good, we'll find things that are not so good. The idea is that we will evaluate and we will be able to see what needs to be improved. We've developed it broad, and we believe that it can be an excellent model to be replicated in other communities, not just in St. Lucia. In fact, we have had interest from other parts of the region asking to come see our program. I was just making the point that it's a pilot run in Castries Central, but we do not exclude others. But when you're doing a pilot, Mr. Speaker, as you would appreciate, it's important for you to have a defined target group so that you can evaluate the project. So, Mr. Speaker, this is First House, and I honestly believe that this probably will be the project after my own heart. If I may say, and I stand corrected on this, this is, I think, the first project of its kind ever in St. Lucia. And we will be engaging the Ministry of Gender Relations. We know we will have the full support of the member for Meekwood North on this project, because, of course, it is something that her ministry would, I think, want to look at very closely. Because, after all, you might even have persons recommended from her department and, indeed, from the Department of Human Services. So I'm saying all of this to remind persons it's a pilot for Central Castries, residents or electors are the main beneficiaries, but we have never closed our doors to persons in need who might be from other constituencies. So that's Synergy Housing, and that's coming, and this is going to be one of our flagships. Mr. Speaker, I want to speak a little bit about sport in Castries Central and what we have done. Synergy Sport is another one of our programs, and if you go on our website, which needs to be updated, by the way, there's so much happening, Mr. Speaker, and we have kept our staff quite lean. In fact, our full-time Synergy staff are about 6 persons, and we double up. So that, for example, our project manager would be the program lead for at least 3 or 4 of our programs. Our deputy project manager is also our lead personal development coach. At the moment now, he's managing the farm in Roseau. What happened, Mr. Speaker? When COVID came and we had to close our office, we all went down to the farm. So you found that persons who normally worked at the office suddenly found themselves working on the farm. Some were reluctant, some were not very, I guess they were not like me, brought up on my father's banana farm, and so they were kind of skeptical, but they soon find the air out there It was so much nicer to breathe. And we had exciting times like the river that I took the Prime Minister and the Minister for Economic Development to see, and the Minister for Agriculture. The river, we took them there. Now it's a flowing dam. You haven't gone yet to see it, Minister, although you go there without telling me. So what we did, Mr. Speaker, in fact, I didn't remember. Mr. Speaker, initially, do you know, well, we're learning as we go along, so we went and we used the sandbags, hoping that we would trap the water in that way. But of course, lo and behold, the rains came, and all our efforts went down the drain. And that's why we had to build the dam, and now we have the water flowing. And guess what? Of course, we had to buy our pump and run the pipes to run from the dam to our farm. But along the way, we passed about 6 farmers, and we couldn't just pass them. So we had to put valves to give them water. And so we're going down there and not just improving the lives of Cass Central in Roseau, but we're helping the people from Roseau. We had a great meeting with the farmers 2 days ago, and so it's all organized. They know they can't just go pump water from the river whenever they feel like, but we have it organized to a schedule. In fact, I just got a WhatsApp from one of the farmers thanking me. When you need help with Ministry of Agriculture, perhaps you can call me, Minister. So these are exciting times. Once we closed our office, we all headed down to the farm. And in fact, God works in mysterious ways. That's how we got the farm moving like this. We did not have to pay extra staff, extra resources. In fact, some of our office staff are still on the farm getting things going. And I want to say that we are really excited. When we spoke with the Taiwanese government and Ambassador Shen, they needed us to do certain concrete things on the infrastructure side to get the farm ready. We've completed that, and we can now get on with our planting. I'm going back to sport, Mr. Speaker. So we do have synergy sport. We have done not as much as we've done with the farm, with the sport, but what we have done is set aside some funding every year to support sports activities in our constituency. And we've been able to sponsor some of these football tournaments, the Kick It Destiny with the girls' football. We've been able to sponsor that. We've been able to renovate rather the CDC court. We've been able to renovate the new village court. And I am hoping this year we can perhaps resurface the CDC court and complete the lighting issue in the new village court, which has been a trouble for some time. Mr. Speaker, I know that there are some communities in my constituency who have been earmarked for playing fields or recreational sporting facilities. Black Stars and Montjudon, Wapatat, Fonigua, Wilton's Yard. These communities do not have any playing facilities. So I'm saying this to the Minister of Sports, hears me. I am also quite concerned, and there's a certain business person I spoke with yesterday who said they were working on something. The VG playing field, the SAB Sands is an eyesore. Something needs to happen about it. Mr. Speaker?
I'm just trying to get members to continue.
Yes. So, Mr. Speaker, persons might think that I'm not necessarily a sporting person. I'm not personally, but I do recognize the interest and importance and value of sport. In fact, if I may say so myself, football in Castries Central, it was during my time, women's football, by the way, it was during my time that we revived this. How many years ago? 18 years ago. I mean, if you see the picture, you'll see me playing small goals in the CDC court. And that was how we got quite a few of the young ladies who are now doing the Safe Spaces League. We got them scholarships overseas. That's when I started really reviving football in Castries. We had Sarah superstars. Jamila will tell you, right? They played in Castries Central in the CDC court, and a number of them got football scholarships. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm just saying this to let all the sportsmen and sportswomen of Casby Central know I value exercise, I value sport, and certainly we are committed to working with them even more in this new financial year on sport. And on our website, all of the sporting fraternities or clubs can go and register on the Synergy website. We have had a number of them register. You register, you agree to our terms, you agree to the values we wish to promote in sport, and based on that, we are able to support you.
Honourable Member, you have 10 minutes.
I know time passes so quickly. So, Mr. Speaker, you have not heard that there's a Sarah Flood Bowbrand football tournament. You've not heard that yet. But this is not to say that we have not been doing the work quietly in supporting sport in Casby Central, but no doubt as we get the bigger projects up and running, we will concentrate our efforts on the other projects that need attention. Mr. Speaker, I want to speak about one more of our programs, perhaps two more. I want to talk about Synergy Pathway. Pathway is our personal development program, which every constituent who is signed up with Synergy has to sign up. So when you sign our Synergy form, whether at the office or online, you must tick personal development. If you don't tick that, it will be ticked for you. Because our programs are free. Nobody pays anything. I didn't speak about Harvest, by the way, which is our culinary and training program where we've trained more than 15 participants. It's called Harvest. The idea is that we'll have a farm-to-table program, from our farm to the table. We will work to improve the quality of school feeding programs, not just in Casby Central, because we're in Roseau. We won't pass the Roseau schools with the food and come to Casby Central with it. We're hoping that we will involve some of the schools in the surrounding area. The idea is that we will grow on our farm healthy, we'll have a great culinary program, and we will have a farm-to-table program. And initially, our target is to increase the nutritional value of the school feeding programs. One of the things we wish to do, and I need to pause and thank the government of Peru. They are the ones who have been doing our training for our Harvest training program. We've had 2 trainings held in St. Lucia with the experts coming, and we've spoken with them about starting a Little Chefs or Junior Chefs program, which they've agreed to. So we will be having culinary training for the little ones to begin really to teach them the finer skills of culinary art. So that's coming as well. I'm going back to Pathway. All of this training we're doing, Mr. Speaker, all of these jobs that we are creating, we recognized from very early that it is not enough to simply provide skills. A lot of smart people in Casby Central, a lot of smart people in St. Lucia, a lot of very gifted young people in St. Lucia, but sometimes they are not work ready. The social skills aren't ready yet. The life skills need to be sharpened. So the way our Pathway program works, we are developing a full personal development manual. UNECLAC has had a consultant here in St. Lucia to work with us on that. And we have also developed a personal life coaching tool. The Mexican government has helped us with that. And the whole idea is everyone in our program does personal development once a week. So our core team has been doing personal development once a week for the past 2 years. Our farmers, ever since they started in January, have been doing personal development, but it was, of course, interrupted with that by the COVID. We're starting to get it back on stream. The way it works, though, Mr. Speaker, let us say we have a situation in one of our programs where someone has committed a misdemeanor or the person has done something grave, something that in an ordinary work environment would occasion serious disciplinary action. Our philosophy in Synergy is that we will work with you as long as you are prepared to work with us. So whereas in another program, the first response may be to fire you, in Synergy, we don't quite do it that way. You may be removed from the setting, but when you are removed from the setting, you will need to go to Pathway. Our Pathway premises are located downstairs the Labor Department. This is our Pathway Personal Training and Development Center. We have been located there for the past 3 or 4 months. We're still doing makeshift because, again, everything got delayed by COVID. I'm not just blaming COVID. But what will happen is someone who perhaps would have been fired from a job because of his misbehavior, with Synergy, that's unlikely to happen. You are more likely to be taken. Of course, if it's a criminal offense, we've got to call the police. But we will still work with the authorities to see how we can give you more opportunities and give you the tools and help you improve your behavior so that you can be reintegrated. So it's very comprehensive, it's very holistic. I could say more about this, but I don't have the time. But I do want to say that one of the programs we literally just started is called Acceptance, Intervention, and Rehabilitation. This is for persons who may have addictions, substance abuse issues, and when I say addictions, I'm not necessarily meaning drugs. Some persons are habitual, persons who abuse people, persons who commit acts of violence or domestic violence, persons who perhaps are addicted to the social media. That's a problem now. That's an addiction now. So we do have a counselor who works with us, and all of these services we provide. You will note, Mr. Speaker, that we do seek funding from external agencies. I've mentioned a number of agencies that support our work. And so all of these programs that I'm speaking about are funded not just from the government resources that we receive, but we have gone out there to market our programs, to send our project proposals out there, and this is what we do. The next time, Mr. Speaker, perhaps I'll get to speak about Synergy Special. That's our program for the disabled. I didn't even say anything about wash and browse. That's the car wash. I didn't even get to talk about that. So, Mr. Speaker, I didn't talk about clean, green, and safe. We recently signed an agreement we collaborated with the Solid Waste Management Authority, and they signed an agreement with the Japanese government to obtain 3 small garbage trucks for Castries Central, because we do have a problem of garbage collection. Sometimes the big trucks can't go into small areas. We have a bigger problem than that, of education and everything, but I'm just, Mr. Speaker, going very quickly. But one of the things that the garbage truck will do is that it will, one of the trucks will be used completely for green waste, and that green waste will be taken to our farm to be used as compost, so that it can help with our organic farming. One of our programs is Clean, Green, and Safe. What we do, register your crew, and that's how we help persons keep their community safe. I know you're going to say, Mr. Speaker, that I have no time at all left. What I do want to say, Mr. Speaker, I must thank my constituents. I want to thank my team. I want to thank the people of Castries Central. Life is very tough. Life is even tougher now with COVID. Mr. Speaker, the stories, the requests that I receive on my phone are heartbreaking. And we know that persons are suffering out there. And what we've done is try to provide a framework, a structure, Nobody walks into our constituency office and cannot get help with something. You might not get the help you came to get, but you will get something. We'll be able, with our structure, to help you with something. We have had, and we've recorded over 900 persons walk into our constituency office ever since we started keeping our records. Now, one person can be there 5 times. We're not checking the number of times you've come in. We're checking the number of persons who walked in to our office to receive care. And the system we have, Mr. Speaker, on my phone, I can check, I can pull up anybody in our system and know what they came to get and what it is they received. So if somebody is in my constituency office right now and the receptionist is dealing with a person, I will know. If the receptionist calls me, I'll pick up the file and I will see what was the last intervention we did. So this is what I'm talking about when I promised my constituents that I wanted to know each one of them by name. I will not, I guess, remember the 900 names who came to see me. But if somebody WhatsApps me here and said, by the way, so-and-so, I will pull up the file here and I'll be able to speak to that person about their sick mother they told me about. So we take our business of representation very seriously. I must stop abruptly and go to my ministry. And I think I have literally 5 minutes left. I have no time at all. I want to tell my staff of the Ministry of External Affairs, ambassadors and consuls general, high commissioners overseas, how very proud and impressed I am with the way the Ministry of External Affairs has addressed in these COVID times the many calls and messages and persons who have been stranded. Mr. Speaker, I have to say that the ministry has really brought foreign affairs home, the value of a Ministry of Foreign Affairs to the ordinary people of St. Lucia. Because of their work, Mr. Speaker, I can say not just who has been repatriated, but I know how many persons we have out there who have not been. I know that we have 130 persons on the list waiting to come from England. I know that we have over 200 waiting to come from the US. I know that we have 3 in Antigua. I know that because of the work that my staff at the ministry and in all of our offices have been doing. We are on the ball. This is what I want to say today. We know who's landing in Grenada and will be stranded and needs to come home, and we're involved in getting that charter. I want to say thank you. I want to say you have really brought the personal approach to the work at External Affairs, and on behalf of the government of people of St. Lucia, I applaud your work. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg that we suspend the House for 1 hour for lunch.
Honorable members, the question is that the House does stand suspended for the next hour. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as of the contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. House is suspended for the next hour.
Et puis, again, we have seen the first session for the second day of the budget coming to an end. The Prime Minister has moved that the House be adjourned for lunch for 1 hour. Of course, we have seen in this morning's session speakers in the person of the representative for Vieux Fort North, the Honorable Moussa Jean-Baptiste, followed, of course, he did touch on a number of issues, including the banana industry. He did touch on, of course, SIAT, among other things, and made a reference to the small businesses in his area. And coming to an end, of course, he did speak of the situation as it relates to his community. We also saw the next person to speak was the Honorable Ezekiel Joseph, of course, representative for Babuno spoke, followed by Honorable Sarah Flood Beaubrun for Castries Central. She was the last person to speak. Of course, the three, all of which spoke of work done in the constituency and the ministries. So, après nous venons pour une pause, nous avons pour nous aujourd'hui les venus pour Kai Concit, nous avons budget qui a continué à discuter. Le premier monde pour parler bon matin, c'était Honorable Moussa Jean-Baptiste, qui a représenté Vieux-Fort Nord. Après ça, nous avons Honorable Ezekiel Joseph parler. Et puis, dernièrement, nous avons Honorable Sarah Flood Beaubrun. En tout cas, parler, les venus pour budget là, les venus pour travailler en constituency. Yo japon pause pour aller déjeuner, pour yo japon pause ça yo dit pour yon editor. So we are seeing the House will convene in an hour's time as the parliamentarians go for the lunch break. Of course, we ask you to join us and continue to follow us here on NTN as we continue to bring you the budget presentation 2020-2021 here on this station. Thanks so much.